like to welcome everybody to the Amery Board of Education meeting here on April 17th. We'll start this off with our open session and a Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we got that. And now we'll have our spotlight on education. Jeff?
Now wrestling at 200. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Come on. White and Coy.
I got it.
So I have the honor tonight to have two state champion bodyguards next to me, so it's a pretty safe spot to be. One thing we always like to do with our state champions in any sports is bring them in here and just give their story and then have the board recognize their achievements. Before we get to that, there's some folks I want to give a shout out to. Coach Kelly and Coach Hopkins here. These guys spend many hours working with these two individuals along with the rest of our team. I wrote down here we went to Freedom, Illinois, Whitewater, Kaukauna, and Madison. If we spend 2 nights in a hotel there, that's 10 nights in a hotel with these boys and their teammates trying to get them the best competition possible. So I appreciate the work that they put into the season. And for those of you who saw the finals match down in Madison for both of these two, Coach Kelly was supporting a red suit from head to toe, so he was voted best dressed at that event. So anyways, a shout out to our coaches. It's much more than just the season. There's a lot of stuff that goes beyond the season. And Byron reminded me, these guys were actually supposed to be practicing with the Gophers tonight, but instead they are here, so they're not going to cut any weight here at this meeting. I want to give a shout out to the parents, Mike and Kelly Ingham, and then Byron and Stacy Hopke. Not only just what they've done as leaders for these two individuals, but the work that they do with our wrestling boosters. There's a lot of organization that takes place when we go to these big tournaments and our youth stuff and sectional wrestling, fundraisers, our cancer fundraiser, it goes on and on. So thanks to the parents. And Mike Ingham is our middle school wrestling coach, so he helps there with our youth program, and Byron also is our JV wrestling coach. Wide here, he had a heck of a year, 50 wins, 4 losses, according to Track Wrestling, and he won via a fall or a pin in the finals versus a tough opponent, but along the way he beat the 170-pound state champion. I know when the bracket came out, I think we referred to Wyatt's bracket as stacked. I think he was a 3 seed, and he was just a hammer. Just came out of there and won in the finals, stuck his kid in the 3rd period there, and really became a national champ in early April too. Went down to Iowa, beat a kid that's committed to Purdue, and this guy's stock has really increased. And I think the Big Ten should have a hub recruiting center here in Amery because there's 2 guys that many schools are going after, and they're both experiencing that. So congratulations to Wyatt. I will say Wyatt had an injury in, I think it was mid-January, and I was sitting next to his mom during a try, and he really wasn't supposed to wrestle. And it was an intense moment in this match, and we really needed a win. And 182 pounds came up, and Wyatt trucked over the table and checked in, and Kelly and I were not expecting that at all, as he had his knee was all braced up and whatnot, but he really rebounded after that and hasn't really looked back. Again, just a great junior year, not even a senior yet, a great junior year. Next to him is Mr. Superhuman Coy Hopke, 56-0. The guy doesn't know how to lose, wrestled for 1 minute and 5 seconds. Joe, I think we're going to set you guys up out here, and you can try to. So he pinned his first 2 guys at state in 13 seconds. And I remember watching the match at the high school next to Mr. Gould, like, I think I could last 13 seconds, and Josh reminded me that.
Let's try it.
Not for anything. I think one of the announcers said something about him being created in a lab or something, being superhuman. But honestly, as a junior, hasn't lost a match yet. He's a 3-time state champion. He's a world champion, was a national champion again this year. Probably the most decorated individual wrestler to come out of the state of Wisconsin, and he's not even a senior yet. He beat the number 4 heavyweight in the country, who was 55 pounds heavier than him here in early April, so just another superhuman here. I'm going to say off the map, both of these kids are leaders in our building. You would never know that they were extremely successful if you just walk down our halls, because they're that humble. They're both multi-sport athletes. White's part of our tennis team, Coy's a part of our football team. I think Mr. Humple's recruiting Wyatt to play football next year, but we'll see what his wrestling coaches have to say about that. But again, just two great kids who lead by example in our building. And we're hoping to make reservations again next year at this meeting, because we're hoping they're both juniors and they're going to be state champs again next year. That's the goal. So I want to thank everybody, and let's give them a round of applause. Good to go. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Very
congratulations.
impressive.
Unless Wyatt wanted to say something.
I know, you know? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well,
Wyatt, you know where you can find me.
running away. Yeah. Our consent agenda items?
I had the vouchers this month. Everything was in order, and I would move to approve the consent agenda items.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Dale, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. There we go. We have no one signed up for community comments, so we will go to our administrative reports.
All right, it's getting to be that busy time of the year at the high school. As you guys know, we did have our ACT day back on March 7th. We've since completed our 9th and 10th grade pre-ACT secure as well, just last week. We'll talk more about that in a second. We did get back all of our results on our juniors. We had some promising results come in, but we'll have to wait until all of our final scores. Some of our late test takers are in there, but we saw some pretty promising things, so that was exciting for us. Large group music contest at Grantsburg for a choir and band. We've done high school solo ensemble at St. Croix Falls. We had our NHS-sponsored Bloodmobile. As I mentioned, we did our freshman and sophomore state testing last week on Wednesday. We also took our 11th graders on college tours to Eau Claire, Northwood Tech, Stout, and River Falls, and I'm still finding kids in the hallway that are pulling me aside, telling me how beneficial that was and what a great day it was. Probably one of the best days of tours we've ever had, and any opportunity we can have to expose these kids to some options, it's a really good thing. So, future events coming up on Thursday. We have our academic and career planning, ACP we call it, senior presentations and warrior time. So we carved out 30 minutes of the day where we'll have all of our seniors still with us in the building. And with their warrior time, they make up a little presentation, a little slideshow about what their future is going to hold, how they got to this point in their life, what they're going to do. And as you know, their warrior times are made up of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So this gives them a chance to show their school family who they've been with now, this was my path, kind of their last chance to give like some words of advice and wisdom to the younger kids. It's been a great thing. We'll have some cookies and some treats for the kids as well. Fine Arts Night coming up next week on Monday night. We'll have our art stuff on display as well as performances by our band and choirs. We've got prom the following Friday, Grand March at 7 o'clock, followed by the dance. On May 5th and 6th, we've got our World Language crew taking a field trip to get their global citizenship certificate in Bemidji. I think we're up to 9 kids, so that's a pretty cool program. Senior Awards Night on May 10th, and May 11th will be our arena scheduling for next year's juniors and seniors, but as you can see, we are wrapping things up, and the only thing that was left off there for future events is graduation, because that'll be the Monday after the next school board meeting, so we're getting close.
Yep. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, at the middle school, we're off and running. I didn't put down a large group in some of those music contests, but our kids are really active in that with band and choir. Middle school track is finally off and running for us. kind of held back with the weather, and then when there is some space, we sort of kind of give way to the varsity level sports until there's clearance, and then we did get in the Osceola meet, and we're looking forward to seeing our students participate further in track and get in some of those field events and work on those skills. So it's been great to see. We are finishing up the forward state exam. I believe the other buildings are done. The middle school, we have one test tomorrow and then some makeups to do, but looking forward to getting those results. We won't get those back till the middle of the summer. We have a middle school fine arts concert and art show at the middle school. And because we have to haul all the art down, we hold that concert in the gym, and that will be coming up here on Thursday. We are in the middle of Spring Fling. We're just about a week away from our Spring Fling. It's the 24th annual Spring Fling event, and the kids kind of get to have some fun and do some creative hallway decorating and competitions and things like that. We will be taking our 8th grade students on May 3rd to the All-Skill Careers Day. Many years ago, we used to take our kids on the college visit trip, and we kind of split between 4-year and 2-year schools and giving kids exposure to both, based on how things have transpired, where we have them go up there as 9th graders and 10th graders to these college trips. So we have moved over to the All Skills Career Day. That's mostly centered on trades, and it's up at the Polk County Fairgrounds. It's a really, really neat experience for students to be able to actually participate and do some of the activities that are tied to the trades. They see electricians, they see auto mechanics, they see bricklayers, they get to drive skid steers and do a skilled training with dropping a tire over a cone. I wanted to do that, but with my eyes, they won't let me touch it, I don't think.
Wise choice.
With one hand, too, it would be a disaster. We have the Genius Hour Expo coming up on May 12th, and that's a project-based learning program where the students get to research a topic of a passion project of their own and present it in any way they want, and invites have gone out to the community for that event. We have an 8th grade youth jam that same day, May 12th, and that's sort of like a kind of a culmination graduation party for the 8th grade that we do right out here at the baseball diamond at Jorgensen Field, and that's kind of fun. Other things that maybe I haven't touched on the next screen, our 5th term ends on April 20th, and then we'll be starting our last 6-week term for students. So they'll switch those applied arts classes, and then there's some science and social days that toggle around. We have Administrative Assistance Day on April 26th, so we're really looking forward to recognizing those individuals that really make our school run efficiently, and we're going to be doing a celebratory lunch for them, and I'm excited. And then we'd also have a Staff Appreciation Week coming up where we recognize all our staff members for the good work that they do, and that will be May 8th through 12th. So, any questions for the middle school? Okay.
All right, good evening. So we've had a couple different math enrichment opportunities for our 4th and 5th graders. So the first is the 4th graders. They've had some extending learning math that was provided by our 4th grade team and our Montessori teachers. So over the last couple weeks, a group of about 20 4th graders have met based on data scores, and they've had some extension learning. They recently competed in it's a national contest, but it happens in-house. So it's a paper pencil contest where these 20 students participate, and then the top 3 based on score are recognized. They will get a t-shirt and a certificate, and then a math contest booklet. So it's been a great way to extend some of our higher learners to just enhance their learning. And then also our 5th grade has also had a similar opportunity. So 20 5th graders have been participating in some extended learning with our 5th grade teachers as well. They will travel to Hammond this Friday to compete as 2 different teams, and that's a regional contest. These 5th graders are telling me they're going to bring back first place, which we have not done, I think in 8 years is what they had shared with me, although they still cannot settle on team names. So I'll see what happens when they come back. But they're very excited about that, so I want to thank our 5th grade teachers for providing this opportunity. As Tom shared, the intermediate school is just finishing up our forward exam. Our
Window actually closed last Friday. We have a couple makeup tests to give from some students being out, but I would say we are probably about 98% done with our Ford exam. Our fourth graders recently had a concert at the high school. It was a mini musical. If you look on Facebook, the pictures are quite entertaining. Our two music teachers, Mrs. Moskal and Mrs. Sunderland, do a fantastic job of finding different themes and creative ways for them to celebrate. So that was fun to watch. I'm going to talk about the fourth grade team. So they wrote a grant several months ago in which they were applying for funds to travel to Alaska. If you recall, I talked about a reading unit that they do called the Iditarod. They call it the Iditarod. And a lot of what that unit focuses on is on Alaska and the mushers and the dog sled teams that run the Iditarod. So with Annie Brayton's help, they wrote a grant and were actually awarded $12,500, and the entire team will travel to Alaska for 1 week in June. And in that travel, they're going to see different glaciers, they're going to go to different school districts, meet with different mushers, really tour Alaska and hoping to bring back that knowledge. They have work when they come back. When they come back, they're going to revamp or look at their unit and their themes. It aligns with the fourth grade standards, so they're going to put a lot of work into that and really just enhance their knowledge of it and be able to bring that excitement back to our fourth grade students. And then lastly, Amery to Amery. So as you probably know, we've done a great job on social media just promoting that Amery, Mississippi was hit earlier this month with a massive tornado. And with that, the Amery, Mississippi School District suffered a lot of damage, mostly to their high school and their athletic facilities. Mr. Simonson several years ago had established a great connection with Amery, Mississippi, and they became a sister city to us. They share a lot of the same demographics as us, backgrounds as our city of Amery. And so upon hearing this, Mr. Simonson had reached out to myself and had asked, what could we do? How could we support directly the school district down there? And that has also turned into our Amery of community supporting Amery, Mississippi's community. So here we have a small group of fifth graders that are working alongside Mr. Simonson, and some of the things they've done is created buttons, so they're doing button sales. We have a fundraising challenge out in our entry of our building. There is a sports and more clothing fundraiser. And so all of those funds that we raise here at the intermediate school, as well as the donation buckets that we have at the other buildings, those will go directly to the Amery, Mississippi School District. We've connected with their school and they need school supplies. For in the fall, they are now back in school. Students have arrived back on campus, and then they can use those funds as they see fit to help with any of their high school or athletic facilities needs. So in addition to what our school district is doing, our city of Amery, the Amery Community Club, and April Zemer at the Amery Free Press have done a wonderful job of communicating with our local businesses on how they could help. So I know April Zemer has facilitated a lot of those conversations and that fundraising as well. So those funds that are donated by local businesses, those will go directly to the city of Amery, Mississippi, as their city was also greatly impacted. Some things we have coming up. This Friday, we have the Math Masters competition in Hammond. Our fifth grade will travel to the Unity Festival on April 25th. We have the Amery Women's Club that is coming in for several days, and we'll be doing Earth Day programs with grades 3 through 5. May 4th, we have the fifth grade music and band concert, and then finally with our IPO, we have our Harlem Wizards that are coming in, and you will see some all-stars from in this room taking on the Harlem Wizards in basketball. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So we have had a lot of fun things going on in our building as well. Our PBIS celebration, our positive behavior incentive program. Spent some time outside in the snow. And I had a great time. Followed it up with a cup of hot cocoa and a snack when I came back in. So the kids really enjoyed that. The teachers have done such a great job getting those activities put together for them. We welcomed our families and students to the elementary school for the art fair, Dripping with Creativity. Mrs. Anderson and her student teacher Isabella Estabauer did a fantastic job getting the students all ready, and the students were so excited to walk through the halls and show off all of their hard work. It was really great. So as they did that, they listened to some classical music in the hallways as they walked through their art show. So that was really an exciting time to have them in the building. The second grade students welcomed the Monti Reptile Show into our building, and those that put on the show from Monty Reptile just really had a great time working with our students, and they just did a fantastic job asking questions and just participating in that really well. So that's always something they look forward to doing in second grade each year. Our lower Montessori, grades 1, 3, and our PBL program 1 and 2 did their spring concert in the high school. They made some wonderful music with a whole bunch of different instruments and singing some wonderful tunes to entertain the audience. Mrs. Henningsgaard does such a great job getting that all put together, and the students are so excited and do such a great job at those concerts. The third grade students at Lean have been working hard on their forward testing. They have completed it, so they just rocked that and got to have a dilly bar treat one day after they finished, so that was exciting, and they're glad to be done with that, but we're really up for the challenge, so it was really nice to see them do such a great job. Our high school FFA students and Derek Meyer helped to plan with John McBride and Claire Halverson our seed planting this past week, and that will be in turn put into our school garden, and the students will do some activities about plant life and take care of their section of their vegetable that they will be planting in the school garden from that, and that will be great. And John and Claire will take over that over the summer, tending to their garden so they can see how it grew over the summer. So that's a great partnership that we've had. We are going to be welcoming a new Montessori position teammate into that program. And we're very thankful to Brittany Miller for all of her hard work over the time that she has been here. So we just wish Brittany all the best as she moves on. So we're excited to welcome a new teammate there. And then our referendum, we are just excited to have more space for our early childhood program and for Clubhouse to be able to have some more space. And we're just, it's just getting more and more real. So that's always exciting. So we're just so thankful for those opportunities. And then our upcoming events. We have Mrs. Estep's kindergarten concert at Lean Elementary on the 24th. Children's House Montessori Show and Share, 4:30 to 7 on April 25th. Our first grade spring concert is April 27th at 6:30. Kindergarten Mrs. Kreff's classroom, May 4th. The kindergarten and FFA members are planting trees, pine trees here coming up on May 11th. We have a 4K orientation coming on May 12th. Kindergarten class from Mrs. Kaiser's will be doing their spring concert on May 15th. Mrs. Sjogren's will follow that up on May 16th. We're excited, and the people are already getting excited and making posters for the senior walk that's coming on the 19th. And then Mrs. Benesek's classroom in kindergarten will be doing their spring concert on May 23rd. So we have a lot of things coming up.
Busy time.
It is a busy time.
Good evening. In the update that really never ends here on procedural compliance self-assessment, I think this is maybe the third update I've given you out of probably what will be 5. We have gotten feedback from our DPI consultant, and a lot of evaluation and paperwork looks good. Just a few questions related to IEP reviews. The next step, I'm going to meet with this consultant tomorrow to answer some questions. We're optimistic there may not be any additional corrections needed, at least at this stage. We've got a couple case managers in the room, so I'll qualify that and say no promises, but I'll do my best to see if we can avoid any of those additional corrections. And then really, once we've met with this DPI consultant, we close up the books on this part of the evaluation and move forward and pull a new set of IEPs to then go through really the same process, and then that will close up in November. So you'll be getting a couple updates on that. This whole process, if you remember, I remember taking a phone call on this last July. So it is a process that only happens once every 5 years, thankfully. So once we're complete in November, it'll be another 5 years until we go through this compliance cycle. Mental health collaboration, we are working with Amery Behavioral Health, and actually our pupil services team, which is composed of school psychs, counselors, and our student support coordinators are going to be visiting over there at Amery Behavioral Health and the food pantry that are in a shared location on April 26th. We're just there to really look at their improvements in their facilities, meet with social workers. Teresa Briggs is going to host us from Amery Behavioral Health. And then after that, move over to the food pantry and look at their facility and look at new ways that we can work together. We've had kind of an existing relationship, but as I've mentioned before, it's always nice to just reach out and review kind of your relationships with those providers and people in the community that you collaborate with. So we're excited to do that on the April 26th. Summer school registration deadline just closed. And as in the past, I've met with the summer school director, Laura Sjogren, and we look and review student plans, accommodations. We'll be communicating with the school nurse. There's a lot of students who might just need just a little bit of tweaking in terms of the services in their IEPs. Sometimes it's health plans, allergies, that sort of thing, and even working with John McBride in terms of any of the food that's served during summer school. So we just want to make sure that any student that signs up for summer school really has that full opportunity and that we're prepared to meet them where they're at with their needs. And I think that's something that, that I'm really proud of with Amery, is that we really value giving students that opportunity to attend and whatever attention that needs to be paid in terms of their individual plans to participate. Our staff really does a great job at working together and putting those supports in place. So I just want to thank Laura and the school nurse, Rose, and John McBride and everyone who collaborates to make summer school a success. And then finally, we had our last PK through 12 professional learning community. We had a few of these that were snowed out. So, I feel as though this last one, we were really focused on kind of building needs and things that we need to do at this time of year, developing schedules, looking at the transition readiness grant at the high school. And we had our speech therapists really looking at their schedules for next year in terms of meeting student needs there, because we've had really an increase in speech needs at the elementary level in particular. So those are kind of the updates from the world of special education. Any questions?
Always busy. Yes, thank you. And you? You have anything?
I do not.
You don't? Okay. Then we'll go on to our informational items. We'll have our audit review. Jonathan?
Jonathan it is.
There we go.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Jonathan Sherwood. I'm a principal with Clifton Larson Allen. I'm responsible for pulling together all the field work for the financial audit. So yes, it's not a typo up there, unfortunately. We are looking at the 2022 audit results. Just want to thank district staff and the administration department of working through definitely some struggles we dealt with. Overall, just turnover within the district, turnover on CLA side as well, and then the being more complex accounting environment that we now get to operate in here. So I'll highlight a few of those challenges and struggles throughout my presentation tonight, but I'll try to keep my comments as brief as possible for you, as to not just woe is me throughout my presentation here. So just to jump into the thick of things right away here for you, item number 1 up here just talks about what the auditor's report actually is. So within your audited financial statements, there's only basically 2 to 3 pages of the entire report that are quote-unquote mine or CLAs. So it's just our opinion over the financial statements, the amounts, the disclosures within your financial statements. So what we issued is what's known as an unmodified or a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance from an independent auditor's perspective. That's actually the level that DPI requires. So that's one of the reasons that we strive so hard to work through everything that we absolutely need to in order to meet DPI's stringent requirements. Throughout our testing as well, we also issue a few other reports along with that. One of them being the management letter comments. So there are, through the course of our audit work, we take a look at the internal control structure of the district. And if there's anything that raises to the level of concern enough to let the governance board know, this is the opportunity that we have to make those matters known to you. So the two items that we do report are actually some repeat findings or repeat items from previous years. Very, very common at a district this size. But again, it's just something that I'll highlight annually for you and just let you kind of give you a little progress report on a few of them as well. So the first is being limited segregations of duties. So obviously within your finance staff, as soon as one person leaves, clearly we felt the struggle this year of when one person leaves and a new person comes in. There aren't really these great checks and balances within there that, somebody can just pick up without, any issues at all, and just kind of run with it, as well as then the approval process on a lot of these very important, approvals being needed. The reports are being prepared and approved essentially by the same people or maybe one or two people, so there isn't a really good backup in place, hence the reason for the comment for you. The other comment that I usually bring up to boards talking about this finding or this material weakness is there's compensating controls obviously with the district, and that is you all on the actual board. When you're doing things like approving checks or reviewing them, you're in that position to act as a compensating control for that limited segregations of duties.
It's me.
Knock it off.
You don't have to steal my thunder that much. I haven't even got to the boring part for you.
I don't know. I blame Andrea.
The next item up there for you is the material audit adjustments. That basically just means through the course of our audit work, we had to propose adjustments to the books in order to get it into the fine 100-page plus document that I will not bore and go over for you this evening. But just a couple comments there. In prior years, the total number of audit adjustments that have been proposed out here have definitely remained consistent. So there's definitely items that every year we're coming in and just paying attention to the same types of sections, knowing that we're going to have to propose audit adjustments. So in previous years, we were looking at roughly about 35 journal entries that we would have to propose. During this latest audit cycle, we were up to 40. Definitely understandable due to some turnover and whatnot. That number of journal entries is quite a bit higher than some of the other districts that we do deal with. Not the worst, but obviously not the greatest. Obviously, from my perspective, it would be great if I could just come in and propose no journal entries and just, it would be a breeze to do an audit. And yes, I do have a handful of school districts in western Wisconsin that is certainly the case. They have obviously a much more robust accounting system or an accounting department or finance department with many more individuals on staff to help that one out as well. But just a note out there that overall there is room for improvement within that. And even if we do propose to stage just a handful of journal entries, there is potential of just completely eliminating that management letter comment for you in future periods.
What is the journal entries? Was this additional things that you had to clean up? What is that?
Kind of a whole host of things. Yes, so there were some this year where there was just a snafu, for lack of a better term for you, within the Skyward financial system itself. It just wasn't balancing. We had to work with district staff and the actual software vendor to get that cleaned up. So that's something that was completely unusual, and you would hope not to experience that again. But other times it's just simple, when a grant claim is submitted, maybe we needed to post and actually record a grant claim at the end of the year, kind of year-end reconciliation type work. Then there's another section in here where the ever-changing regulatory environment that we have to operate in. The standards I operate under are called GASBs, Government Accounting Standards Board, sets these new rules and regulations. And when a new standard comes in, one of them being GASB 87, which is a little bit further down here, dealing with leases and whatnot. There's a lot of additional work that we had to do, and typically other districts have been able to get their people involved at an earlier stage. So maybe we still needed to post those entries, but we didn't necessarily need to do all the calculations and everything behind that work. So those types of things.
So more of aside from the snafu that happened that you'd hope not to,
Right.
the anomaly, these are just more accounting, just fine accounting issues that not necessarily a loss of money somewhere, anything like that, just that these are accounting standard issues that needed to be cleared up.
Correct, yeah. There wouldn't be any issue of any missing money or any lost revenue anywhere by any means. It's more or less year-end reconciliation items, things like booking back accrued vacation sick leave or properly bringing back accrued salaries and some of the real technical, boring parts for you. But DPI requirements, GASB requirements that if they're not booked in that certain way, I then need to go ahead and have my team post those entries.
Okay, thank you.
One of the other big reports that we end up working on as well is a compliance piece. I know that just briefly we heard from state analysis of the IEP system. We actually look at all of the federal and state awards that are received during 1 year. And if that total dollar amount exceeds a certain threshold at the federal level, it triggers what's known as a single audit. So that level is $750,000 from the feds annually. In the school district of Amery is roughly at $3.1 million. So it's pretty much a guarantee every year you're going to have a federal single audit. So when we come in annually, we take a look at all the federal programs, and then we do a risk assessment of which one's got the greatest dollar amount. Is there a new program out there? What types of attributes do we need to test? So in this year, we actually took a closer look at the child nutrition program just because it was a significantly large dollar amount this year due to some rules and regulations within that fund project. So long story short, we're happy to report that there were no compliance issues from a federal or state standpoint that we're required to look at during a federal single audit level. So good news there. A couple other reports that we also then file is it's called the 1506 AC, which is basically the states or the DPI's check between what the district submits to them as well as then what we basically have to agree to and sign off and make sure that down to a penny everything that's reported to DPI matches our records. So that's taken care of annually. And then finally a federal data collection form, just again reporting back to the feds, here's the total dollar amount we received and we had no issues from a compliance standpoint. I briefly mentioned GASB 87, and I just want to highlight it here just because it was significant work, both on district staff as well as our staff. Has to do with lease accounting. Again, you don't need to get into the weeds about it. Just know that of the 10 individual agreements that are present here that qualified as to we need to take a closer look at them, just looking at them and kind of doing some analysis behind the scenes adds to our work about 2 to 3 hours per agreement. And then if we have to implement any of those, it's just getting it into the actual correct form and fashion. So there was quite a bit of extra work that went into, required work that we needed to do in order to issue your financial statements. To briefly talk on to some actual financial data here for you for the end of 2022. This is a 4-year trend. It's a pretty handy summary of what your audit results are. On your balance sheet here, these are obviously a point-in-time balances that are as of 6/30 year end. So if there's any items that are really jumping up or staying consistent or what's the story behind them, it kind of jumps off the page a little bit better for you. So a couple of items just to highlight for you, about midway down the page here for you that says short-term notes payable under your liabilities section. I'll make a comment on this a little bit in a few minutes, but basically at the end of the year, you had outstanding a $2 million line of credit. So just keep that in mind, and I'll refer back to that here for you in a few minutes. And then lastly, when you're looking at the financial health of a district, we end up highlighting there a few different rows, and basically when we're assessing what the financial health of a district is, we take a look basically at these 3 attributes, and then we can kind of discern some information for you there. So the first highlighted row there is under fund balance, or that's colloquially known as your equity section or your true reserves of the district. We're utilizing 3 of the 5 buckets available to us, and there's different requirements for each of these fund balance amounts here for you. So the non-spendable item, that $25,900, we can't. Those are reserves. I mean, we can't spend them until something else happens. They're not spendable at this point in time. So if you look up further on the page, that's the land held for resale. So as soon as you sell the land, then those assets are obviously freed up for you, then to use elsewhere. The only other item that we're reporting in 2022 here is your unassigned fund balance. So this is everything else. These are your true reserves of the district. If you want to stay up on that page there for me, please. Thank you. So your unassigned fund balance is just over $3.5 million at the end of the year. And when we're looking at that, we compute this down to a ratio of that final line there. You take a look at what your total expenditures are for the year and then calculate, okay, this is what it took to run the school district or to operate the school district for the whole year. Now this is our true reserves. If we took in no further dollars from any taxpayers or any federal or state sources, approximately how much of a year could we fund? So it's coming down to about 15.1%. So there is a board policy here that states that that number should be no less than 5%. So we're clearly meeting that. That is a minimum target that you have set here in the district. But how does that then compare to another school district? And the reason that we compute this ratio is you can take this ratio and compare it to any school district of any size, basically, because it's using their real data coming down to a ratio. So the rule of thumb is you want to be anywhere from about 25 to 30%, about a quarter of the year, so to speak, of operations you want to have set aside in your unassigned fund balance just to be able to use and meet unexpected budget shortfalls or budget necessities in future periods. So clearly, at the district, we're a little bit less than that, and then you can extrapolate that out to see how are we doing compared to our peers in Western Wisconsin and basically the state at large at this point. In Western Wisconsin, CLA services upwards of almost 50 school districts now, and what we're usually seeing is that number being anywhere between 30 and 40% in these last couple of years, and the reason for that increase in the peer groups out there is usually is directly due to the amount of ARPA and COVID funding that has flown into districts in the last couple of years. And that's exactly what's happened here in this 4-year trend. Back in 2020, when COVID first hit, right, that we had a fund balance of about 12.3%, and it's now grown to 16% and 15% respectively. But we've had other needs that we've needed to meet, obviously, within your budget. That's why it's kind of dropped down here in 2022. So from that standpoint, 15% is good. I would not consider that in fiscal distress by any means, but in terms of what we would like to see from a third-party administrator, like from an outside party, and taking analysis of a school district, as well as kind of where you're fitting in Western Wisconsin type other Western Wisconsin school districts, it is definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. So when it comes to budget time, keep that in mind. And one of the other advantages of increasing your fund balance, so if you did have some improvement in this figure, what it would basically mean is going back to that $2 million short-term note that I was describing. Basically, we're living off of that at some point during the year just for cash flow purposes. Make payroll, make other long-term debt payments, that sort of thing. Historically, the district has carried a $2 million line of credit at the end of the year to meet those obligations. During 2022, we paid $17,000 in interest on these this short-term line of credit during the year. So if you improve your unassigned fund balance, that's going to improve liquidity and would eliminate the need potentially to even need to issue any short-term note or rely on that. Typically, the other districts that I work with, anywhere around that 20% figure is usually where that need to short-term borrow basically falls off. So if you're looking from a cash flow standpoint, that would be one big benefit. Another big benefit of having a little bit healthier fund balance would be more favorable bond terms if we're going to go out and issue any more additional bonds, as well as then potentially have other liquidity options to finance, maybe internally finance repairs and maintenance, and not needing to go out for referendum, depending on obviously the size of any future projects. So I know in the short term, that's something you can't just wave a magic wand overnight and just improve this. But in future budgeting sessions, it should be something to at least consider when setting additional levies and budgets going forward. And I did fail to mention all those numbers I was just talking about are just your Fund 10 and 27, so just your education and special education activities. So now we'll go in and kind of highlight here. Item number 3 will be everything else that the district gets involved in and what makes up the other 80 some odd pages of our financial statements. Item number 3 are special revenue funds. So these are all restricted revenue sources. Any revenue for these specific purposes needs to be used for these outlined areas, cannot be used on anything else. So your education trust or your Fund 21s, they have reserves at the end of the year of $343,000. That number jumps in there for you if you're looking, again, historical trends. 2020 into 2021, what was the big change there? That's another one of those pesky GASB accounting standards was adopted in 2021. So we took a lot of the scholarship type things, which used to be Fund 72 and some other activities. They're all now tracked and accounted for specifically in Fund 21 only. They're not reported elsewhere. So for whatever picky reason, the accounting standards basically said this is where they belong. That's where we're sticking them. And there hasn't been any change in operations for anything that's happened in 21, just for sake of just accounting for different activities in the Education Trust Fund. Next is your Fund 50, your food service fund. So at the end of 2022, you had $574,000 that is set aside and restricted again just for food service use. That would include any capital items that would be needed to be paid for would come out of those funds. And you can definitely see the trend there, as I mentioned earlier. The increase in federal funds that has gone into that specifically as a result of COVID, basically expanding free and reduced lunch eligibility to essentially all students. That's the main driver of why your Fund 50 reserves have increased over the last few years. Then lastly, you've got your community service funds. So this is all of your Fund 80 activity. So again, there you've got your adult education programs, your theater program, and your daycare program. When you look at those funds, I look at them, typically my comment is those types of activities should be either breaking even or slightly having a little bit of a return on investment, so you can invest back into those programs to make sure that they're paying for their staff, their capital, the future hopes of possibly expanding those offerings is typically how districts look at those. The large negative in 2020 and 2021, obviously, again, that's COVID rearing its head. It's going to be kind of fun for the next few years. You can look at those columns and say COVID, 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 because when we shut everything down, we couldn't offer any of those services or any of those programs to folks. We still had all the costs and expenditures going in there, but obviously no revenue to offset them. So if you look in 2022, it finally breaks even again. The adult education program is at a zero balance. The daycare program is at a zero balance with the $5,204 set aside for just the theater program. So that's how those numbers break down there for you at the end of the year. Moving on to item number 4 is your debt service fund. So in governmental accounting, this is where all of your principal and interest payments have to be recorded for. Essentially what that means is all of your principal and interest payments just are recorded in one place. The district's meeting it's all annually it's meeting its required principal and interest payments without any issues. So that $507,000 is set aside to meet future debt service payments. And it hovers around whatever your next debt service payments need to be. That's basically what's left in at the end of the year. During 2022, in principal payments, you paid just over $344,000. In interest, there was another $33,000 in total expenditures that hit the debt service fund. Next item up is your capital projects fund. So anytime, obviously, like you have a referendum that has started, that's why the $43,000 is tracked separately for all the bond issuance that was, that's where the bond issuance resides, that's where the revenue comes in. And then as those expenditures are incurred, that's where all of that activity is expensed out of the capital projects fund. There is another capital projects fund. A number of years ago, DPI basically opened up to districts to use as kind of a budgeting tool. And that's the long-term capital projects fund. A number of years ago, a lot of districts basically funded this with the hopes of basically, quote unquote, starting the clock. You had to have a long-term capital projects plan on file with DPI, and you needed to have the fund opened and funded with some reserves to, quote unquote, start the clock. And then as soon as that time period expired, then you could start drawing on and utilizing this, again, as a budgeting tool, so it's outside of the scope of the general fund and kind of didn't have to mess with any levy calculations or anything like that. So during 2022, we've kind of spent some of those funds down in, kind of hand in hand with the referendum questions. So some of those expenditures were incurred during 2022 as well. And then lastly, item number 6 here is the long-term obligations. These are all the long-term obligations for the district. Some of them are cash items, obviously, like the first items, and some of them are non-cash items. And I can go into those just briefly real quick for you. The general obligation debts, so there's 2 different types that the district is carrying. You've got long-term bonds and long-term notes. The long-term note, or the long-term bond, obviously that's the greatest dollar amount that we see there. Those are the bonds that were just issued, and those are payable through 2042. There's a small issue there that has now been subsequently paid off as we're standing here today. So all that is outstanding is the most recent bond there that was issued during 2022. Under the notes category, there's actually 2 outstanding notes. One is due through 2024, and then the other payments continue until 2028. Talking the other long-term debt numbers, just so, I mean, obviously, since those numbers changed so significantly, just real briefly, the vast majority of these are non-cash items in any given year, with some of them just being, you know, what is your actual liability that you have to be worried about, you know, next year or in the short term. It's basically a pay-as-you-go system on some of these. So the first item being that net bond premium and discount looks like kind of a pretty scary number. We've got a $2.9 million liability on our books. That is a completely non-cash item. There would be no cash that would be left the district. It's basically an accounting transaction. Every year we amortize this until the $41 million bond expires. So that's all worked into those debt repayment schedules. There's also then the GASB 87 item that is now impacting this schedule is the lease liability and finance purchase agreements. Again, I mentioned all this tremendous work we had to go into to determine what that actual number needed to be, and it basically calculated out to a whopping $154,000. And that's until these finance lease purchases or these leases are completely extinguished. So again, quite a bit of work just in order to get one footnote or one number more correct in GASB's eyes. The other items that we have on here are for the most part non-cash items. Or you're going to be financing these as a pay-as-you-go system. So your OPEB benefits, about $595,000 there. And then the one other item on here that completely kind of throws off some analysis without knowing the history behind it is the WRS pension liability / in this case it's an asset. Again, this is a completely on-paper transaction. The district participates in the WRS retirement system that is extremely well funded. It's actually like 103% funded, I think is what the numbers were for 2022. So this is the district's share of the asset of the entire system. Don't get too excited. We can't obviously spend that on anything else. It's, again, just a paper transaction for you. So what this all, boils down to is every year we calculate how much of your statutory debt limit has been expended. By Wisconsin statute, the district can incur 10% of all equalized value. Clearly, for a district, you're never going to get to have to worry about exceeding or running up to 100% of your true equalized debt. Everybody would be extremely unpopular if you would get to that point. Typically, districts that I see after a large borrowing or large offering like you incurred in 2022, this is about as high as you're going to see that percentage be without be considered, they're fairly highly leveraged in that position. So you're at 35% of what your legal debt limit is. And again, most districts, when they incur large borrowings, are usually at this, and then as you're making your payments, equalized values typically increase, and your outstanding debts then decrease. So you're traditionally, on average, anybody that's in a run-of-the-mill, not just issuing something, you're usually in the high teens to about 20% is what I normally see most districts at. So obviously, you do have a little bit of room there if you would have to go out and incur long-term borrowing for an emergency type need. But again, at this point, from my perspective, I would consider that right where I would expect you to be, higher leveraged, because you just had your $41 million issuance. Based on that, that's all the high-level comments I wanted to address for you this evening. Anybody have any questions that I can hopefully address for you at this point? Perfect. If anything comes up, you can run it through Finance's office.
I could only imagine that doing this for every school district is really stressful and difficult and hard in your life. And have you ever thought about doing just district finance? And
Depends on what the
Asking
offer
for a
would
friend.
be. I'll say it that way. It depends on what the offer would be.
Well, this is job posting and we can.
I don't know, we're at 35% leverage, so right, I'm like,
Yeah,
Nice try, Joel. Good. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Hey, it's worth a shot, right?
yep. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.
We're going to go off script because Linda is here for the
Yeah,
insurance.
I thought
renewal.
that, so.
she's over there
All right.
patiently like, call me next, call me next.
She's not waiving any money, so I don't know if I.
Please
do
move
this
me
right.
up.
She's got nowhere to be.
So we're going to move to our action items, which is our staff insurance renewal with Linda Skoglund.
Oh, boy. I love it, prospecting right here at the board meeting.
I'm always recruiting.
All right, well, good evening. My name is Linda Skoglund. I'm with J.A. Counter Alaric Group, and the purpose of tonight's presentation is just to give you an update on what's going on with the benefit package for the district employees. So starting with the medical plan, your medical plan that you offer to employees at the district is, you're offering a very generous health plan through Health Partners. The employees have a $2,800 deductible, and that is a preferred deductible. So they earn that deductible by participating in a wellness program. And so, along with that deductible, there is an HSA contribution that's provided by the district. And when we compare this to other districts, your health benefit package overall is a very attractive offer. From a rate adjustment perspective, this year the loss ratio for the district ran at 92.48%. So what that means is for every dollar paid in premium, Health Partners paid out 92 cents, about 92 cents. The overall plan spend this year over last year went up about 22%. So when if you'll remember, we're in the middle of a 2-year rate agreement with Health Partners. So the renewal did calculate, the standard renewal calculated over that 9% rate cap. So therefore, they did come back with a 9% offer for the renewal this year. With that said, your health plan deductible will have to go up this year. Right now, the 2023 minimum embedded deductible is $3,000, so you will have to increase the deductible to the employees from $2,800 to $3,000. We also went back to Health Partners and asked them if they would consider another second-year rate second-year rate cap to protect the district from future claims liabilities. And remember that you'll get whatever the premium or whatever the renewal calculates at, you'll get that number over 9%, whichever is less. So they did come back and offer to do that for us for the 2024 plan year. So the net increase to the district after the deductible change in the second year rate cap is $233,000. When we look at that relative to the last 8 years' premium increases, really overall, again, you've averaged a little over 4% per year. So I know 7.5% is still a large number and a large jagged pill to swallow. But when we look at that blended over the last 8 years, we're about 4.13% average. And extending with that 9% rate cap for the 2024 plan year will help. So the recommendation on the health plan is to extend the agreement for the 2024 plan year, so have another 2-year rate cap and accept the renewal and adjust the health plan deductible to that $3,000 for single and $6,000 for family. And again, that is the preferred deductible, assuming people participate in the health and wellness program. Speaking of the health and wellness program, you also partnered with Health Partners on that program as well. It's been really well received by the employees. You've got very high participation. Participation in the program through March is about 75%. The employees, in order to qualify for that lower deductible, that preferred deductible, employees need to complete an annual health assessment and then a couple of activities. There's some pretty cool activities. They can participate online. These activities, we're looking at expanding these activities this year to offer more choices, and we also really want to put a focus this year on preventive screenings, trying to get people in for those preventive screenings so that we can catch some of these chronic illnesses while they're a lot easier to cure or treat. When we look at the dental program, again, the dental is also through Health Partners. Once again, you're getting a flat rate change on the dental program. So no plan design changes and no premium changes to the dental program. Those dental rates have not changed since 2020. So this has been a great program for the employees and very well received, especially because they have a Little Partners program through Health Partners that gives people access to free dental care for any child with no, basically an unlimited maximum for anybody under 12 and under for free. So that's been very, very well received by the employees of the district. And then the other products that are available, you've got vision, life, disability, and you've got some, also some what we call worksite benefits offered, which would be like your accident, hospital indemnity, and critical illness type policies. Your vision coverage is currently through Delta Dental, which is kind of funny. And your disability is through NIS. We went to market for all product lines because all of the other product lines were with Unum, and we were having some administrative challenges with Unum at multiple levels. Tried to work through those programs, tried to work through the challenges with Unum, and in the end, after going out to market, the recommendation is going to be to move the vision and the life, voluntary life, critical illness, hospital indemnity, and accident policy to Mutual of Omaha. There is a rate savings available in life insurance. The other products are, I would call the other products being very, very comparable, both in price and plan design. And it's also going to create some administrative efficiencies by reducing the number of carriers that we're working with, as well as being able to offer a new online enrollment platform through these. So we're in the process of setting that up right now. What that's going to do for employees is give them the ability to be able to enroll in the benefits through an online portal, through either their app or a computer. And it will also give the district, hopefully a little bit lighter load relative to the re-enrollment, the open enrollment period, and getting people enrolled and benefits communicated. So I'm going to open it up. Does anybody have any questions?
And these last items are voluntary but available to the
Absolutely.
staff.
Yep. And we've got pretty good participation in those. They're not for everybody, but for the ones that want them, they really enjoy having access to them.
Could you explain to me, like, how you go to bid for insurance?
Absolutely. So, first of all, like our relationship with Amery Schools, the team that we have, we start by having a strategic conversation just after renewal. So usually in the month of August, September, once school has started, we'll have a strategic conversation about direction. Where do you want to take the benefits? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want things, where do you want things to go in the next 3 to 5 years? And as a part of that discussion, one of the things that we're talking about is, happiness with the carrier, rates, plan design, all of the things. So once we identify all of those things, we're looking then at, whether or not we even want to go out in the first place, or whether we can based on contract language, et cetera. Once a decision is made, we'll go out to anywhere, depending on the product line, anywhere from 7 to 12 different carriers and get bids and look at, and when we're doing this, we're looking at comparable plan designs, comparable benefits, making sure that any differences in plan designs and premiums are disclosed in a side-by-side analysis. And then based on that information, typically a decision is made or a recommendation is made.
Are you doing any separate, I guess, do you know the Barron School Districts? You don't happen to work with them, do you?
I don't, not yet.
Okay, so have you ever, again, the employee or the staff have the opportunity to go see a nurse practitioner up to a certain level, and then obviously that's very, very low cost to them, but then if they have to use insurance for, surgeries and stuff like that, or illnesses, it's just a different rate. Are you familiar with that concept?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
has that ever been brought up?
We have visited on and off about either direct primary care, in other words, working on a relationship with, for example, Amery Hospital and Clinic, to have a direct relationship with them, which would be outside of the health plan, where they would be paying like what we call direct primary care contract. We've also talked about forming, we've helped with the Be Well Clinic in Baldwin. So the Baldwin School District has its own privately, its own clinic down there that they share with other employers. So it's the same concept as what Barron is doing. But so it's an independent clinic, independent of any health system.
Yeah, just like the one in Hudson.
Yeah, like Reform Medicine, yeah,
Okay.
yes, so.
And this is still a better deal?
Well, in order to go that route, like with a near-site or on-site clinic, we would probably need more members than just the district, so it would need to be a collaborative effort with other employers in the area. And based on the partnership that the district has had with Amery Medical, the Amery Medical Clinic, we've investigated those options with them, but have not looked at a collaborative solution for this area. But certainly can.
And did you take, you went out to market with all the other options. Did you go out to market with the health insurance package this time, or?
We did
Not.
not. So when you sign an agreement with the carrier, it makes it so that you can't go out to market. And so that's, kind of probably the negative part about signing that second year agreement.
Right.
As well, it gives you that extended guarantee and that protection. It also takes away your ability to shop with
Right.
other carriers. So every year we do that, it's a year that we can't shop. So in any event that you don't want to sign that second year agreement, that is the year that we can go out to bid with other carriers.
Right.
It's kind of a catch-22 with our experience ratings.
Yeah.
We don't really know it.
We've had
So
such
we've
good.
gambled with that.
We've had such good rate lock-in in the past that it seemed like a good option to take. But this rate, obviously, it was a big hike,
Yeah.
and maybe that, we need to look at maybe not looking at that second year option then? Because that's a big one.
Yeah.
So you had said, last year we paid out about, for every dollar Health Partners brought in, we paid out like 92 cents, right? Do we know what that number was kind of roughly over the last 6-7 years?
Off the top of my
Just-
head, I don't. But
Yeah,
I
okay.
can tell
Was
you-
it lower than, I mean,
Yeah.
part of the reason why we went from kind of averaging 4.1% to 7.5 to 9 is because of the payout, right?
Yeah, I mean, last year was flat. And year over year, your utilization went up 22%. So if that tells you, I can tell you that for sure from last year at this time, that went up 22. So
Yeah.
you were probably down closer in that 70% range.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, if I remember right, like it was, like we hadn't had a lot of visits, right? We hadn't, our staff was relatively healthy, I guess.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of doctor's visits, and
Right.
that's why we'd gotten the good rates that we had gotten. And then part of that was that fit, the plan that they had taken part in and all that. But this is,
Yeah,
it's big.
I know. It's painful.
Been easier if it had gone up a little the 2 years prior, but it's kind of like getting revalued on your real estate.
Yeah,
All of a sudden you do jump. Well, the past 5 years, you didn't increase, so here it came to catch you up. But I know playing with that experience rating and trying to go out and get bids, are we going to find ourselves basically in the same area of expense?
How do they set that 9%?
the 9% is negotiated. So, when I first approached Health Partners, they wanted to offer like a 14 or 15%, and I'm like, well, that's not acceptable. And we've had those So what's happening, what we're starting to see happening with Health Partners is that their underwriting is very conservative. And while they've been willing to give 9% or what we call single digit, rate caps in the past, this year they've been less willing to do that. And so, based on the negotiations, I was able to get them to 9, but it's not mandatory. We don't have to take the 9% cap.
Does that strike you as worrisome that they were offering a 15% cap, meaning that maybe they're looking at increased health care costs next year that would be more? So that if you didn't take the 9, that's a big jump. So if we didn't take the 9, is it possible that they're looking at, if they were looking at a 15% cap, that if we go out to market next year, we didn't take this guarantee, we go out to market next year, we could look at a 12%
Yeah,
increase?
It's possible, but if we didn't take it, we would go out to RFP and there would be market pressure. So there's that.
Okay.
It just depends on what happens health-wise within the group from a risk perspective.
So we have the option tonight to take this 7.5% increase tonight to cover for the next year, but then not take the second year cap
Correct.
option.
Correct.
And then we could look at market pressure next year to see if
Right.
we can get that down.
Yep.
But we've also had the second year capped at 9% for looks like the last, 6, 7 years, right? And they've come back at anywhere from 0 to 7%, looks like was the highest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we've been doing this a long time with that second, we take it for 1 year, the second year's capped.
I know.
And it's, it seems like added protection, it seems very risky to not take it. And, I mean, we've taken it for the last 7 years, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I would say, looking at the numbers here, they haven't come close to their
Their cap, except
their
for this
cap.
year.
Except for this.
Except for this year.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean,
and-
in 1920, they did hit us
But-
at 7,
Yeah.
But,
we had, really a couple years pretty lower single digits. I guess even if you look at it, 233,000 this year is a sizable amount, but it was 0 last year, so
Right.
now you're looking at 120 a year for 2 years, that's
So
a little easier to
we
swallow.
have we ever said, let's bring this out to other companies and let's see who has the best? I mean, I love the competition aspect of it,
Yeah, clearly.
so.
yeah. But that's where your experience rating, when we were with the union, WEA, I mean, that was the risk we took there, was we have no clue what our experience rating is until we decide to go out. And then you could get a lot higher premiums than what we had. Well, we did that and it worked out. So it's all a matter of what our experience is as far as the claims.
In the risk tolerance, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if we don't accept, we would go out to bid next year and do the, negotiate the best that I can based on what we're dealing with at the time relative to the
Right.
claims experience.
Right, yeah.
Linda, will you correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was if we did not accept the 9% rate cap tonight, that this year's percentage would go to 9% from 7.5 to 9, right? Did you not negotiate down to 7.5? Or am I misunderstanding that?
Yeah, actually, it went down to 7.5% regardless of the
Oh, it
second
did?
cap.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we've got the 7.5% locked.
Either way, okay, got it.
But didn't that go down because we had to raise the,
Yes,
so it
because the
wasn't.
The
deductible
deductible.
went,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And that deductible went from 2,800 for a single to 3,000,
Mhm.
right? How about for the family?
Went to 6,000.
56?
Yeah, 5,600 to 6,000.
6,000.
Okay.
And that's not a health partners decision, that's,
No, that's an
IRS-based?
IRS, the embedded deductible rules say that you have to have that. And next year, we're probably looking at another increase. We won't have those numbers released until May, but it's looking like the minimum deductible will probably go up to 1,600 for single and 3,200 for family, which would mean we'd have to increase that deductible again to 3,200. And that, like I said, that's not a district decision, that's in order to keep that embedded deductible for family, which you want to keep. We have to make those adjustments.
So I understand that your recommendation is to take the rate cap and lock that in for next year?
Yeah, after, and that was something, after visiting with the district and what they're looking for as far as rate stability and needs and budget and all of the things, that was what we talked about as being the course that they wanted to recommend to the board.
That would be my recommendation, to accept what you say here.
Yeah.
I would like to have more options.
Sure, we can do that in the second year, but for the near term, for 23, 24, we've got an open enrollment period in 2 weeks. So it's tough
Well,
to do in 2 weeks.
I think it doesn't change this year, does it?
No. But I'm saying to get more options. We couldn't get more options for 2 weeks from now by any
No.
means. That wouldn't work.
For the, we could for the 2024
Yes.
plan
Right.
year. Yeah,
Yes.
if we didn't take that second year cap.
Right.
So I would encourage you to say the exact same thing come next spring, to say I'd like more options.
Well, we have to, we have to
Yep.
decide on it now, though.
Right, right,
We have
yes.
to reject the 9% cap, but then
Right.
we obviously, we're locked into the 7.5 increase
Right.
for this year.
Correct.
And the increase in the deductible.
Yep.
So we're not really actually thinking that it's going to go up to 9 even. Next year, when we come, they may offer, the actual increase may only be 3 or 4.
Yeah, it totally depends on what happens with the claims, right? In
Right.
the next
Right.
12 months, when
Yeah.
they're recalculating it.
Versus a broken arm versus cancer treatment,
Right.
you know.
Would though the competition of market pressure get us down into even that ballpark if they came back? Health Partners said next year, you're looking at a 3 or 4% increase. Would the market pressure be similar to that? We wouldn't look at a 10% increase, of course, in another company.
Yeah.
I don't think you know until you go out to bid.
Right.
Right.
If you end up having
If we knew what the
multiple
healthcare
high-cost
expenses
claimants,
were gonna be this next year.
I think what we're gonna find when we go out to bid is 7.5 is gonna feel pretty glorious. I think we're gonna be in the low teens. But we wouldn't know until we went out to bid, but if that's what you wanna do, we could do that for 24, 25, certainly. We don't need to know that tonight.
I know this is dependent upon people rather than districts, but are we all very similar for districts? Like, how many
You mean
districts?
as far as
do you-
claims?
Yeah, or like costs, overall costs. Does everybody have a $3,000 and $6,000 deductible? Does everybody, like, I just wanna know, like, again, what's Osceola at?
Yeah.
I couldn't begin to tell you.
I should have, there was one slide I was gonna put in here, and that was a benchmarking slide. I wish I would have put it in now. But, yeah, your plan is very competitive against other districts. I think the lowest, so what I look at is net, okay? Net deductible or net out of pocket. Net meaning net of the HSA contribution. So if you look at this year with your $1,000 HSA contribution, the net deductible is $1,800, right? $2,800 less the $1,000 HSA and double that for
1,200.
family. I'm sorry, 1,200 HSA. So the net exposure is 1,600. Okay? So when we look at that net compared to other districts, you are as good, if not better, than most districts. I do have one district whose net is like $250.
Yikes.
Yeah, but that is completely the exception, not the norm.
Yeah.
If we go out to bid, would Health Partners bid again?
Yeah, actually, if we don't take the second year, what will happen is when we tell them we're going out to bid, they will, instead of responding with a renewal, they will respond with an RFP response, just like they would if they didn't have you currently. And so we would be releasing the, aggregate level claims to the other carriers and having them put their best foot forward. There's a lot, that is, like, again, competitive pressure can sometimes do good things for the district and for the employees.
What, for example, if we went out to bid and we were looking at other carriers, would that have an impact as far as providers? I mean, most people, a lot of people in Amery use Health Partners because Amery Clinic is Health Partners. So if we went with someone else, would that require them to go, to a preferred provider somewhere else?
Most of the health plans have really great access, and when we do the RFP, that's one of the things that we ask in our questionnaire is for them to do a disruption analysis based on where people are going currently. And so we'd be able to identify, any disruption. When we're looking at carriers, the networks that they use are pretty broad.
Okay.
They can get narrow depending on the plan design. And some of the plans that are available go further east than west. But overall, that would be one of the things that we'd be looking at in the comparison. We want minimal disruption.
So in those parameters, how many bids do you think we would actually get? I mean, you put it out there, but how many would, because you're saying we want to stay within this network of providers and that. I mean, are there?
You're probably, as far as really competitive providers with broad networks in this area, you're probably looking at 5 to 7 different vendors that would come to bid. A lot of my districts went out to bid for this plan year, and I have one district that, after going out to market, got 1 response, and then I have another one that got 7. So,
Depending on their experience.
Yeah, exactly. But,
Which is a guarded secret.
Yeah. Well, we do get, the blessing with Health Partners is we do get claims data, completely de-identified claims data.
Yep.
High level enough where there's no individual identification whatsoever. But it's enough data for us to be able to help, help with wellness programming, for example. If we have a high number of diabetics in the population, we can really focus in on that type of education. So we are getting some really good health data. Health Partners comes and does an annual report that allows us to drill down far deeper relative to the actual utilization of the tools that they have available for cost management as well.
So in your opinion, would it be prudent for us to go out there and seek other bids, or would we be better off at this 7.5 and the 9% cap?
Well, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Since that you've been with one carrier.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt, even a plane has to come down for refueling once in a while, and it doesn't hurt to do a market check.
Yeah.
The risk, of course, is the unknown, the claims and the unknown, and that would be what the board would have to be cool with.
Right. We look really stupid to everybody if we don't take this and we come back next year and we say, sorry, now we're stuck. We have a 12%, that's as good as we can negotiate.
Yeah.
But we look like freaking geniuses if we come back and it's
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah.
But that's my life as a farmer every day, so
What's the crystal ball say?
what's the crystal ball?
Yeah.
But I, in my experience, because I do this so frequently with insurance and gamble and risk, because we haven't done this in a long time, personally, I would like to see us go back out to market. Don't come for me and throw stones at me next year. But I think that we're just probably not doing a due diligence if we don't do that every once in a while and accept it. Personally, that's the way I feel.
Well, it would be harder to swallow if in the last, 2 years prior to this, we were at 5% each year. But we were at 1.84 and we were at 0. And now we're at 7.5. So now when you average those three, you're basically looking at a 3% per year, which,
That's pretty good.
Isn't too bad.
It isn't bad at all.
But I wonder how much COVID figured into those numbers where healthcare costs were low because of elective surgeries were put off
Sure.
and
Yep.
knee replacements were, those things. So I have to wonder if that didn't figure into are adjustments.
Which may mean those kind of surgeries or care is going to increase now in the next year, and we go out to bid, and all of a sudden our experience rating is up. So which way is the crystal ball?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
So you talked about routine preventative care and having people participate more in the routine screenings and things. So the insurance wants you to do that. Do we not have enough people doing that, and that's causing some of our inflation too? But then does that drive our numbers because more people are doing that, because the hospitals aren't doing them for free and the insurance companies aren't there to not make money?
Yeah. One of the things we tweaked last year is adding, as one of the 2 activities that people could participate in, we added people going in to get a routine physical exam. So we really want to encourage people to have a relationship with a primary care doc, period, whoever that is. And this year, the plan was to really encourage, not just have a relationship with your primary care doc, but also those preventive screenings, because even if preventive screening utilization goes up and costs go up slightly because of that, the cost of an undiagnosed colon cancer, for example,
Yes.
which is completely treatable if caught early.
Yes.
And preventable, well, I shouldn't say preventable, but yeah, it matters.
Early detection.
Significantly. So we're trying really hard to encourage those things that people just don't necessarily want to go in for.
Well, I would look at this as, the cap rate has been 9% the last 7 years. They've averaged a 4.1% increase.
That's you.
I would look at it, if they come back next year and it's, another 7.5% to 9% increase, then I would be more willing to, bid it out at that time. I guess I would make the recommendation that we accept the 7.5% increase with the 9% cap for a second year.
So you
But
made
then
that
we
as a
couldn't
motion.
go out to market until 2025.
Right.
Right, and if we go to market next year, we're gambling with this year with our
Yeah.
our exposure this year, right, our usage this year.
But ultimately, it
that a
offers
motion?
stability
We're
for the
gambling.
budget.
Yeah, is that just your recommendation or is that a motion?
I mean, this is.
I would make the motion to accept this year's increase at the 7.5% with the 9% cap for next year. That would be my motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. And opposed?
No.
No.
Aaron?
No.
No. Okay, so that fails.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 7.5% as required and not accept the rate cap of 9% for next year and look to go to market next year.
I'll second that.
And you'll second it, Shar? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No?
No.
Okay, that motion carries that way. Thank you, Linda.
You're so welcome.
Yes.
We have insurance for next year.
Yeah, so we'll have a good conversation next time.
Yeah.
Thank you. You do a lot of work between now, next year, please.
Yeah, you got it. I got you covered.
Okay, now we'll go back to our original agenda.
Yes.
Okay, our referendum update.
Okay, referendum update. This is a refresher course in what referendum was way back in April of 2022 and still is here in April of '23. The only difference is we've put out for bid all sorts of work. We've entered into contracts, and we are ready to roll here in the month of May. So question 1 was 35 million. You'll see this is a bit repetitive, so we're looking at improving learning environments at the high school, building and site maintenance at all 4 buildings, And then you're looking at code impacts in a couple of buildings and also finishing touches and equipment at the high school specifically. The high school learning environment improvements, this is straight from the referendum materials that were distributed and the presentations made way back in early 2022. There were 5 priority areas: the science labs and the greenhouse, the renovation of the locker rooms. That's taken various iterations over the course of the last 6 months in regards to what the scope of that will be. Update the woods and metal shop, upgrade the ag lab and greenhouse, and then improvements in the area of the commons and cafeteria, which will see a grand scale remodel. The high school building and site maintenance, and please interrupt me anytime you want if you have questions or points of further clarity. We're looking at exterior masonry, roof ceilings, exterior walls, wall issues, mechanical systems, which is HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, which is the biggest price tags, obviously. And then repair and replace parking lots and sidewalks. So that's what's happening in regards to building and site maintenance at high school. Code impacts, the installation of fire detection and suppression. As recently as last week, if this isn't something that is addressed now, which it is going to be addressed as soon as you did any sort of other large-scale work in the district, you would be mandated to do it then. By code, once you get to a certain magic number, you got to do the fire detection and suppression systems. Renovate for accessibility requirements. These are bathrooms largely. And then the emergency generator and transfer switches. If you remember the tours of the high school, some of the stuff we have in the high school is no longer made, which is not a good sign. High school building finishes and equipment, replace or refinish flooring, install durable finishes over gypsum board in corridors, and paint throughout the building. So I'll take questions or comments on high school. I guess we'll break it up by building rather than resume through all of it. Questions about high school?
I mean, this is kind of just going over the plan.
It's not new by any means.
That's right.
We have dropped ceiling tiles, and they're already in doing the specs of regards to dimensions. They haven't ripped anything out yet, but they're waiting for the kids and the staff to leave, and I imagine day one, they're gonna be ripping a lot of stuff out. It's all ready to go, pretty much. Middle school building and site maintenance, repair exterior masonry. The middle school is 1992, so it is over 30 years old. Replace heat pumps and cooling tower. That is largely complete. There is still a little bit of work yet to do on heat pumps, but that project's pretty much been done. Replace light fixtures with emergency saving LED fixtures. That is done. That has already happened. Renovate to meet accessibility requirements. There are some smaller renovations that are occurring at the middle school. And then refinish the gym floor, and you'll see that item come up here in the athletics presentation. Either refinishing it or replacing it is the conversation we'll have in the future here. Intermediate school. The intermediate school, I said this 1,000 times, it isn't new anymore. It's 20 plus, so it's newer, but not new. Repair the exterior masonry. If you walk in the main entrance of the intermediate school, it isn't because hasn't been washed. It's because the masonry needs work. The synthetic stucco finishes, repairment of the roof, upgrade of the building automation systems, replacing LED lights to LED fixtures. That's done. Repair and improve parking lots and drive services. And then refinish the gym floor here. Elementary school. Repair exterior masonry. There is a 1967 roof section. Remember, 1967 is the year the building was erected, so we're looking at, what, 55 years or so. Add hot water piping to the classrooms. That will be a exciting moment when that occurs. I still don't understand how that didn't happen, but it didn't. Renovate to meet accessibility requirements. And then replace remainder of flooring and classroom casework. Some of that casework is original to the building. It is 55 years old, and it looks it. So that's finishes and equipment, so to speak, the site maintenance. Now remember, at the elementary school, there was a second question for $8.5 million. If you go to that previous slide, these were all the items that were on that list for question 2. Adding a parking lot, which would be to the east of the building. If you were driving down the service road towards the middle school, it would be on your left. Relocate the main entry. That would be right next to that parking lot, which would be the back of the building, but you have a secure location there. Relocate the early learning center and add space. You'll be able to add about 25 to 45 spots for childcare. Improve security. By moving that entranceway to the back, you now have a secure entry point with office eyes right on that entry point. Right now, we do not have that. Add classroom space, that would be to the south end of the building where 4K and K would then be located. Relocate art and music, because they're presently in where childcare is gonna be. Relocate administration, where there are eyes on that entrance, and renovate classrooms. The Building and Grounds Committee, Keith and Joe are members of that committee. I am on that committee. Ryan Pease, our Director of Transportation and Grounds, and George is on that committee. Now that we're at referendum time, we're to the point where we have lots to talk about and see and do. This is but a draft. I don't know people's work schedules, but this is literally the smack dab Wednesday in the middle of each month, all the way through August of 2024. A 5 p.m. Start time. I don't imagine you know your schedules in August of 2024. But let's plan on, if we can, Wednesday, May 17th. And if 5 o'clock doesn't work, I can meet at 6, I can meet at 7, doesn't matter to me. We'll start seeing the work that's going to be done. And then once we get to the June meeting, we'll really start seeing work that's going to be done. Because they're itching to get going, so to speak. So Building and Grounds will take on a new shape and form here rather soon with lots to engage in. And our hope is when we have an opportunity to meet, we'll be able to report back right here to all of you what's happening, and we can do that with eyes on site, so to speak, so people can know what's going on. So questions for me in regards to referendum, Buildings and Grounds?
It's a lot to keep up with.
Well, there certainly will be.
You got your work cut out for you.
I think a lot of folks do on this one. It's going to be an undertaking, but we'll look back upon it, and it'll be very exciting when it's all done.
Yep.
Retirement party. We are going to have a retirement party for 4 folks. We've got Terry Cran, Eileen Flatten, Deanna Johnson, and Luann Pahachik. The date of that event is May 17th. I would invite you to attend. There'll be more information coming out here in the very near future. And it's always been a fantastic event. I'm a little nervous about Eileen. I'm not sure who she's going to have speak for her. Hopefully it's Jessica and not Tom.
Yeah.
Just saying. There's less material this year on Eileen than there was on Kathy. You set the bar pretty high last year. So, that's what I got. I vote Jessica, I'm just saying.
Thank you, Sean.
Where is this gonna be?
Tom's entertaining.
More information later.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Warrior Athletic Facilities Advisory Committee. We met way back on March 8th. The information you see here is pretty much a carbon copy of what you have seen already, if you're in attendance at that meeting. The names that you see on the screen are all the members of that committee. There are folks that are highlighted. There was some conversation about we have to make sure we have a wide range of opinions. We can't just have school personnel make decisions about athletic facilities. The people that are highlighted are not school employees other than being contracted to coach here in the district, but they're not school employees. So we got about a third of our committee members are not district staff, so we're getting a wide range of perspective. I'm going to run through sports. It sort of flows in a logical way in that some areas are connected. Football, we're looking at updating the field. There is the talk of whether that's grass or turf, and then there are 7,000 different versions of turf. That would be a conversation. Replacement of scoreboard. If you don't come to the game at the beginning, you will not know if it's a 4, if it's a 2, if it's an 8, if it's a 1, because some of those bulbs are burned out at the football field. Pave the entrance area to the football field, basically from the concession stand up to where the bleachers are and to the fence line, because right now it is a gravelly, muddy mess, and it would be helpful. Pave the area around the concession stand, pave the area all the way up to the bleachers. Replace the surface on the practice field. It is concrete-like from what has been shared with me and with the other members of the committee at that meeting on the 8th. Improve street parking. We are not in conversations to put up the barricades and you can't park in front of the middle school. I know that's tradition, that people have been parking there for the longest time. My wife's Grandpa Dewey, would roll over in his grave if you took that opportunity away from him. We're not looking at doing that. People have been doing that for decades. And improve the tailgate area. It serves baseball, track, and football across the road there. That's connected to track, obviously, since it's in the same spot. Replace the existing track. It's an 8-lane track with a 9-lane track. You could do a bleacher move to do that. The bleacher move, in essence, you notch out the top of the bleachers, the first 4 rows, and you push the rest of the bleachers back around it. You lose about 75 seats. I've been to a lot of football games here. Josh has been to more. I don't think we're typically selling out in the bleachers because a lot of folks are on the fence line and a lot of folks are just in other spots. So you wouldn't have a shortage of seats, I wouldn't think. Enclose the bleachers to provide more storage. Right now it's an open air space underneath. Add a high jump area at the south end. Bleachers, add bleachers to the pole vault, long jump, high jump, triple jump, and then move the shot and the disc onto the other side of the tree line. If you're doing shot and disc and you're a parent of that particular activity, you're not going to watch the rest of the track meet because it's on the other side of the tree line. So moving
Where
it,
would they-
that's the question, where? That's why we have architects, they would figure out where. Because you need a big, long space, because if you got a good discus thrower, that's at least 150 feet out. You can't be in the direct line of someone throwing the discus. So it might not be possible, but that is a request from the track community, if you will. Soccer is connected to football, connected to track. You could leave them right where they are and replace the main field with new grass. Remember, there's an irrigation system under there, so you'd have to be vigilant about that. Or you can move the game field for soccer where the football field is. Please understand, and those who were at the meeting will understand this pretty quickly, the dimensions of a soccer field are not the same as the dimensions of a football field. It's wider in the middle. If it's wider in the middle, then you have to do one of two things. You have to do a bleacher move or you have to do a road move. To do a road move is millions of dollars. That's likely not to occur. You can engineer anything you want, but that's likely not a very realistic option. Or you leave soccer right where it's at. Replace the scoreboard at the soccer field. If you didn't have the soccer team play at the actual field they're playing at now, you would use the football scoreboard, and that would 2 for 1, so to speak, on that. Add bleachers at the existing soccer field. There's really only limited number of seats. You bring your lawn chair or you stand and watch. Add a storage shed over there and regrades with soil amendments to make the field a little more amenable. Baseball. Move the fence line in at the varsity field. Jeremiah Fisk shared with me, to the best of his knowledge, since the fence lines were established where they are presently located, which was 2007, there have been 2 total home runs over the fence at that field. 2. That's not a lot. I'm sure there have been a lot of doubles and triples, though, because you get into the outfield, there's a lot of space out there. So to move that fence line in would be the idea. Replace the JV field. I was just over by the JV field a couple of hours ago. It's a pretty substandard field in regards to a field to play on. Add bleachers at varsity and JV field. There's not much place to sit. It's really a bring your lawn chair kind of experience. Replace the infield grass and dirt at the varsity field. Extend fence lines all the way to the ground, where oftentimes balls are rolling right underneath the fence. So we want to bring those to the ground. Add a storage shed, add lights at the varsity field, replace the scoreboard, pave area between press box and the road. Those were all contributions from the baseball coaches in the room. Softball, we do not have a softball field here on campus. The softball field is Jorgensen Field. That is not our property. It is very substandard for doing high school softball. They have to move the bases. They have to put up a fence whenever they play, and it's used by the general public. And the way that they have shared it with us, there's oftentimes all sorts of contraband out there that should not be at a high school softball complex. We don't have one, so the request would be to add one. Tennis. Tennis courts, we've got 8 tennis courts. The request is pretty simple in most regards. Add picnic tables by the courts, benches between the courts, because there's 2 sets of 4. Fix cracks in the old court, so we've got one court that's probably about 20 years old, or 4 courts that are about 20 years old, and 4 courts that are about 3 or 4 years old. Replace the windscreens, add a storage shed, add signage, that's tennis only. We have oftentimes have folks that like to rollerblade in there, and that's not good for that surface. Extend the fence lines all the way to the ground. Tennis balls are going under all the time. The ones that I don't return when I play with my own family, which is nearly every one of them, go under the fence. And add lights to the tennis complex. I'm kidding, I hit some of them, not mine. The ones that are close by I'll get. Resurface the trail through the woods for cross-country. This obviously is a bigger undertaking than just cross-country. That would service the needs of the school forest committee. There's also talk, if you didn't know this, there is a 10K trail. The city is proposing that part of the trail would go right through the school forest. So we'll see where that ends up. So that's cross-country's request. Basketball, replace backboards in the middle school gym. The replacement of the backboards to make them square rather than round. That's a basketball thing that they made clear. Replace scoreboards in the middle and high school gyms and replace, they're indicating to replace the middle school gym floor. They're characterizing it as a safety hazard. I have been in there. It is a safety hazard unless it is treated every single day, and it isn't always treated every single day because we simply don't have the manpower to do it. Golf, a golf simulator, a room for a golf simulator. This year is probably needed more than ever because golf in the snow is not usually the way it goes. Hockey arena is owned by the Amery Youth Hockey Association. We get a lot of kids interested in hockey, but that's not really our deal because it's not our facility. Wrestling, update of the wrestling room and update of the weight room. We're not looking for fancy accommodations and bright colorful images and so forth. It's a wrestling room and a weight room. They probably want it to be black and white, something simple and like mean and serious. Those are 2 requests from the athletic committee and also from the Phi Ed staff in regards to the weight room. Our weight room is very small.
Do we know what update means? I mean, these are all very specific, and then we get to the wrestling, and it's like, update. Well, does that mean new mats? Does
I
that
don't
mean
know.
new subflooring?
That's the contributions really from architect and construction. I haven't heard from the wrestling community specifically. The weight room has been a conversation for well past 2 decades. So I'm not sure what the wrestling folks would want, but if you're updating the weight room, it's the logical connection to update that as well.
And no, we did do some things in the weight room not too long ago,
Yep,
correct?
we added that door, so you had a direct line of sight, but we had equipment in the hallway for the longest time, which isn't a safe
Right.
way to go. If you're gonna update it, you literally need to expand it out to the south or out to the west. I mean, maybe you wanna contribute in some way, Josh, but that's really the directions you would need to go.
We've added some, like, we spruced up the door to make it look like Amery Athletics. We put in new benches, a new machinery there, but we got rid of a lot of the machines off the hallway just so they can be free. We just need more space. I think our, going back to Steve Bielmeyer, and now Tracy Bjork, they do a great job with the space they have. They take great care of it, but we've outgrown it. I mean, if we took a tour of all middle border schools and looked at weight rooms, ours would be the smallest and the most ancient. But we do the best we can with what we have.
And I apologize, Jeff, I forgot you were here. I'm deferring to Josh and the athletic directors right here. Sorry. Volleyball, the improvements in the basketball area for middle and high school would satisfy their needs according to the volleyball program. And that brings me to the end. What you have seen here for information are contributions from athletic department, middle and high school administration, from the district office perspective, contributions from building and grounds with George and LHB and KA, but mostly from the athletic community themselves, whether they're coaching or whether they're spectating. These have been their contributions. Our athletic facility, if you looked at a rankings, to use Jeff's words, of the 8 schools in the Middle Border Conference, if you rank them overall, we're 8th. And we're 8th by a distance, if you ask me, having traveled the road. So,
And this came out of the meeting that we had. And these are kind of the wish lists of each department.
Yes.
And have these been ranked or scored based on order of importance or necessity
No,
yet?
because we're waiting, we're ready to do that, but we're waiting to see how you feel about it as a board. And we're also waiting to see if, in fact, you want us to proceed to the next step to talk about how things would be financed. But this is the necessary next step for you to weigh in, and then we would start beginning to see what we can and what we can't do.
I think you would imagine, Shar, that everybody prioritizes the areas that they know and participate in the most. So you'll get 20 different answers from 21 different people.
I guess, sorry, I should have been more clear about that. Not the priorities overall, the priorities in each area. So basketball, rank these things 1 through 5.
Sure.
Football, rank these things 1 through 8,
I
whatever.
think we're gonna end up
Each
getting there.
individual.
If you get to the point where you have X dollars to do such and such, you're gonna say to them, okay, you've given us 7 things, what is it that's the highest priority?
Yes.
That would be necessary.
I'm sorry, I should have cleared
Oh,
that up. I didn't mean
it's clear
overall.
now.
I meant,
I'm hard to understand many times.
sorry.
And under the building and grounds, I mean, can some of these be taken care of? I mean, cracks, cracks in courts and, you know, that type of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, that should just be handled.
Bleachers, a set of bleachers like you have at soccer is about $1,200. Do you need to go some big grandiose option to satisfy that? Probably not. Yeah, many of them can be done right through the budget,
And-
yes.
And that same type of thing, and I know you trust in LHB and stuff like that, but when you say the word engineer and LHB to me, I just add a bunch of money.
True.
So, you know, again, it's like, like, a lot of the stuff George is doing, has already done heat pump, stuff
Right.
like that.
Yes.
You know, if we can save a bunch of money. I'd
Absolutely.
rather not.
And what you'll hear from Lisa Voisin from Baird Financial in June, there are really 3, and I don't want to steal her thunder, there are really 3 options. Option 1 is to just leave it as is, do nothing. Option 2 is to do it through a Fund 38 mechanism, which she's going to explain to you in June. And option 3 is to do it through the district budget over the course of a longer period of time, which all 3, the second and third are options. The first I just don't see as an option. We have to do something to upgrade our facilities. And you're right, Joe, there are a difference between cracks in the tennis court and moving on bleachers or putting in a football field.
Yeah,
A couple.
I mean, just in my, you know, we talked about the baseball. Why, I mean, again, I work with a street department that just moved, you know, had the same issue.
Yep.
They moved it in, so.
We would not need an engineer to come in to help us move a fence.
Yeah.
We would contract a fence mover and they would come in and move a fence.
Roger.
I've already asked Jeremiah, and I know that Jeff's had this conversation as well. You simply got to tell us what the dimensions are. Where is left, center, and right, and how tall? I mean, that's a simple one. Putting in a turf football field, not as simple, obviously.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other comments and questions?
Is there a thought of looking at any other ways to finance athletic facilities as far as like doing some kind of, you know, fundraising kind of project or,
Yes.
you know, getting outside sources?
Yes, Jeff, Josh, and I have already had 2 conversations with the scoreboard provider, and we believe, we're pretty confident we could do all of our scoreboards in district through sponsorship, through local businesses, which is what most folks do in order to sponsor, to get scoreboards put in, and that wouldn't cost the district $1. That would be sponsorships on those boards, and that would be a great way to go. And to do all the scoreboards in the district, you're looking at about $350,000. That's not going Cadillac variety. You could spend a lot of money on a scoreboard. So yes, that is an option. You can fundraise in other ways. Lisa will go through all those options in June, certainly. Other comments or questions for me or for Jeff, perhaps?
Working with some other, or speaking with some other schools' scoreboards, a lot of times they get their boards paid for in 5 years via the sponsorships, and then once they get to that point, they use those funds to buy some of those more nickel and dime expenses. Could be bleachers, could be the cracks, and then also saving up for scoreboards for your next go around. With the technology of scoreboards, they typically aren't lasting as long. So,
It's like buying a new refrigerator. Doesn't last very long.
no.
Well, I think it's obviously good to listen to move ahead and listen to our options. If we don't listen to our options, I think we would be remiss as a board to dismiss that. I mean, obviously they're necessary things, so, I mean, there's nothing that locks us into listening to a presentation with Baird to see how we fund these things and putting, some priorities on things and move ahead that way, we can decide then. But if we don't listen to all the information, I think that we would be irresponsible.
What you see is the moving forward timeline. We have a meeting with Baird. This is a board meeting, June 26th. Then you have an athletic facility meeting, a committee meeting. We talk proposals at that point in time. If you gave us the green light to talk proposals, that would be July 26th. And then we would have a meeting in October of '23 to talk about updated version of proposals. So really, it's a matter of what dollars are available, how do you go about doing that, and what do you prioritize? Because you can do everything, you can do some, you can do none. There are a variety of ways to do it. Some are shorter, some are longer. But we have to proceed forward smartly, and that's why Lisa's coming in June. She's smarter than anyone else I know on finance.
Okay,
We'll look forward to hearing from her.
yep. All right,
Okay?
next we will go to our program changes with AIM and PBL.
Okay, I probably need some help from Jessica and Paula on this. This has been truly years in the making in regards to decisions that have been made here. In regards to AIM and project-based learning, AIM's got roots some decade plus ago here at the intermediate school. PBL, not quite as long, but it has a history here as well at the elementary school. Some changes have been made. You were privy to conversation that took place here on March 21st. We met with all the AIM project-based learning and Montessori teachers on the 28th of March. And then we shared with intermediate and elementary staff what our decisions were and shared that subsequently with parents as well. So what you see on the left side of the screen is the 22-23 version of staffing at the elementary for KK and first. And then on the right side of the screen, you'll see the same grade levels with 23-24 projections. You'll notice on the left, there are class sizes, and then there are numbers in parentheses after individual people. You don't see any numbers after individual people on the right because we simply don't know how many kids we'll have in those grades. The estimate is class size will move forward in all three of those grade levels to a higher point. And the reason that's the case is because we're reducing staff to get to that place. You'll see a resignation there in kindergarten, which moves us towards that point by moving from 5 instructors to 4 instructors. That increases that number. We've also doubled down in regards to COVID learning loss, and we put extra instructor in kindergarten for that very reason, because we had a 4K the year prior to this that demonstrated great need from a behavior standpoint. Those were COVID kids in so many ways. So we added an instructor there. You'll see the same picture on the next slide of second grade Montessori and then project-based learning. So the second grade slide reflects the same. The Montessori slide is a little different because we have a resignation there in Montessori. And as was stated to the folks that met with us as part of these meetings with staff, everyone that's in the room that wants to be here has a spot, and this is testament to that being true. We have Maggie Peterson from Project-Based Learning moving into the Montessori program, so she is still here. And then at the end of this year would be end of the PBL program. We simply don't have a very high number of kids interested in the program. The number is but a handful, less than a half dozen are declaring an interest. That's not sustainable in regards to how much it costs for an instructor. You have to have more kids than that. So I'll stop there before we move on to the AIM portion of the presentation, and I'll take any questions, or Paula can take any questions you may have.
I guess I'm just hoping to see that even though that this formal program is going to be discontinued, project-based learning, I just obviously hope that there's an uptick in more of the project-based learning happening inside all of the classrooms, and it sounds like everybody's kind of moving in that general direction as it is. The kind of, I'm always a fan of learning by doing, and I think we've seen great strides in the kids, you know, with Tom, even at the elementary, or at the middle school with the Genius Hour and things like that. So I'm hoping that we just have some assurance that those will be continued on in our regular classrooms and.
Absolutely. I think some of our teachers already are doing some of those things. For instance, second grade right now has incubators in their classroom, and they're hatching some chicks out. And so they're just always doing some of those things. And much like our connection with the garden committee and them planting seeds and caring for their garden and learning plants that way, they're really utilizing that outdoor classroom as well. So I definitely have faith in all of our instructors over there that they're doing a great job incorporating that.
And I know we're not onto the intermediate school yet, but I would agree. I think it's important that we embrace that students learn differently, and hands-on learning really engages kids. It makes learning fun and exciting. You mentioned middle school at Tom. I know the high school takes the same approach. I'm working on the science curriculum order right now, and a lot of it is hands-on learning.
Big.
I think we recognize that students are engaged when they have an opportunity to be a part of that learning. And like Paula had just shared, you know, our fourth grade just tapped maple trees and brought it to a syrup maker, who then brought it back, and we're going to enjoy it on ice cream. So I think philosophically, we really want to see our students have hands-on learning opportunities. So a lot of the things that AIM has done traditionally, we now have an opportunity to embed that into our traditional classrooms so that every student gets an opportunity to learn in the same way.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of those things, I just think of first grade too in their ocean dive. They just do so much hands-on and research and things like that. So I think there's just many connections of dots there for that.
I love the ocean dive.
Craig Peters, who grew up across the street, his mom Dory was the owner of the land that we purchased across the street that we're farming on and building houses. Craig Peters said to me one time, and Craig was a home builder for many, many, many years, says if I would have been able to build houses in high school, I never would have missed a day of school. I'm assuming that means Craig missed days of school. If you know Craig, that's probably an accurate assessment. But that would have been hands-on learning. That would have been right up his alley. The AIM portion of this, one more slide. The overall class size average then moves from 14.7 to a projection of 16.2. That's a reduction of 2 teachers' resignation and a PBL. So those 2 teachers are no longer in the mix, and that's a reduction that matches enrollment, which is what we need to be thinking of as we continue to adjust in the new age of education enrollment-wise. The AIM picture, the intermediate school picture, if you will, the 3rd and 4th grade, you will see a line from Andy Wolf moving from 3rd to 4th. This is a reassignment that's a long time in the making, and it's a result of about 120 kids in present 3rd grade moving to 4th grade. You simply need more teachers in 4th than you do in 3rd. So 3rd shrinks back down to 4, and 4th becomes 6, because you just have more kids. Those class sizes increase in one case and decrease in the other. Remember 3rd grades where we also doubled down in regards to COVID, because we had a 3rd grade here that was demonstrating academic need, and that 3rd grade now becomes 4th grade. We've remediated and made progress, but we're still tackling that animal, so to speak. On the next slide, you'll see 5th, Montessori and AIM. The 5th grade class, you'll see is the same number of folks, but you'll see a line from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. That's Sonia Kelly, who moves from the AIM program to 5th grade, and she then joins Severson, Simonson, and Yeski. And then you have the same instructors there in Montessori, and the AIM program ends after this year. And then there are 2 resignations. So everyone that is here now that wants to be here next year is in fact here. And you'll see those class sizes pushed forward. And then you'll see a grand total on that next slide of what it looks like at the intermediate school, approximately moving in from the 16s to the 17s, and a reduction of 1 teacher. You had 3 resignations and you have 2 hires. So there's a total reduction of 3 staff to match the decreasing enrollment that exists at the elementary and intermediate. Remember, that bubble of reduction of kids is at the elementary and intermediate. It hasn't yet hit middle and high school. When that does occur, there will likely need to be reductions there. We went from having low hundreds at the elementary and intermediate in classes, and now you've got low and mid-80s. That's a different number of kids. Questions about the intermediate portion of that presentation?
So we have projected class sizes, excuse me, in the 23-24 school year in third grade at 19.3.
Yes.
Are we, it seems a lot.
Still on the low end.
Dream for a lot of like.
It's still on the low end in
Right.
regards to class sizes, and
Right.
Jessica's got a handle on that.
Yeah, you know, around us, I would say districts range, like Sean is saying, probably low 20s is probably pretty normal for most districts around us. I would say you're right in that that's our largest class level sizes, you know, at the elementary and intermediate school. Right now, I think where we see a little bit of a change, Maggie Peterson being a half, as a PBL teacher at the elementary, she's essentially 0.5 first grade, 0.5 sixth grade. So that's where we see a little bit. We're absorbing those extra 8 students that are leaving second grade and coming in. So that's where we're absorbing and growing a little bit as they come into third grade with us.
And, you know, project-based learning has been going on a lot longer than it's been called project-based learning, because my son was put into Mrs. Kennedy's class, and she was doing project-based learning, and that wasn't an option, he just was placed into her class, and I know she had been doing that project-based learning style of teaching even before that, and then eventually it was labeled as project-based learning, and it was given as an option. So, and then, you know, she moved into Montessori, and but even that program, you know, has changed. Some years it's been only first grade, some years it's only been second grade, some years it's been both. And so that has definitely impacted, I think, the feeder program into AIM, because with Montessori, kids have gotten in 4K and stayed in Montessori. And in the project-based learning, there was not so much of that feed. You didn't get in until maybe first grade, maybe second grade, depending on, couldn't always continue it from first grade to second grade. So it kind of, you know, I think as far as, you know, people requesting AIM or not requesting AIM, I think there was part of that played into that there was not an automatic kind of feeder program, as well as maybe not enough really understanding the AIM program. So as having kids in the AIM program, I've had a child or two in the AIM program since it started. I am sad that the AIM program is leaving. Obviously, there was a huge change because none of the original 3 teachers in AIM are still there. But I do think that it's been a great program, and my students have benefited, and I think all the students have benefited from having that multi-age classroom and being able to work multi-age with especially their projects. So, you know, maybe that will be able to happen still within the building as far as multi-age projects and things. But the kids do, it's really neat for them to see them connect with kids from the other grades. Third and fourth graders look up to the fifth graders, and they're able to do some mentoring and teaching, you know, helping those kids. It's been really neat to see. So I am sad to see the AIM program come to an end, but hopefully that, you know, I know a lot of the fun things that they do will be continued and will be incorporated, but thank you to the AIM teachers that started the program and made it a really neat program for the last 7 years.
Okay.
All right. We'll move on to our Angel Fund.
Angel Fund. The information you see here is tracked over the course of 2 years. We have received a lot of donations to the Angel Fund. And remember, the origins of and still the existence of the Angel Fund is donations to the district which go directly to kids that are in need. It's not used for any other purpose, and you'll see some of what we've spent that money on. Recent donors, you'll see the list here. Rather than read you a slide, we have had a lot over the last 2 years of money donated, and some from the same sources repeatedly. So over the course of the 2 years, you'll see the grand total of $7,764.54 in those 2 years donated directly to kids that are in need.
And that was straight cash.
It's straight a donation, cash or check, right to the district.
But I mean, other than the supplies, which are listed separately.
The supplies,
This was-
right, those are donations, and
This
then
is
there's a ton of
money
donations of school supplies that
Right.
are just boxes and boxes. I got another one 2 days, or last week, for Thursday or Friday, donation that's going to come for the fall. They're planning their needs. So yeah, school supplies are separate.
Great.
So at the elementary school, we have a lot of donation that's been put to good use there. You'll see the standard fare of winter wear. We're getting to, I guess, the end of winter, and some folks are needing some new garb or replacement garb, and some folks need that for financial reasons, and we're stepping up and donating there. I'm not sure if you wanted to comment at all, Paula, on what's been donated and how it's been used.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of things that become need over in our school. Rubber boots and snow boots are big, snow pants, those are things that kids wear out easily, grow out of easily, and there's just a need there to help support in that. So those are always good, and those school supplies, like those rest mats, things like that. But yeah, we're always looking for those great ways to support our students and our families.
So this list, is this what has been donated, or is this what was purchased
Those
with?
are
Purchased.
things that were purchased with the
What we
donated
did with the
funds.
money, in
Okay.
essence.
Okay.
And since we did summer last week and we're back to winter, we're going to continue to use the winter stuff. Summer's over. I mean, saying that in jest, but it feels like it.
Distant memory.
Distant memory after today. Amery Intermediate School, you see some of the same types of items, but there's a few additional. Jessica, you went on a shopping spree, I believe.
I did. So we recognized that we had some needs with winter gear, and then just things in our health room. So I had purchased some things to help fulfill those needs of students. We also get students that move in from different areas, low income. We want to make sure that they're set up for success and they have access to what they need for a warm and dry recess. Another thing that we have here that looks a little bit different from the elementary is we have band. So we are very committed to our band program. We want to ensure that students have access to the instrument, the books, and any cleaning supplies that they would need. Oftentimes they're borrowing our instruments. We have a collection of instruments that we use, so there's some maintenance that need to go with those. We've used angel funds in the past to fix or repair instruments that students have the ability to use those as well. Otherwise, very similar to what Paul is saying at the elementary as well.
At the middle school, we move away from boots and jackets and snow pants. That's just not cool to wear at the middle school, probably.
They don't have recess.
They wear their flip-flops in winter.
Sure.
Yeah, our biggest ones are kids that can't afford fees, and so sometimes we're, like, they maybe get an athletic fee waived, but then they don't have any of the equipment that maybe they would need, especially like athletic shoes and cleats and things that we provide for certain kids. Field trips and access to pay for field trip fees for kids to go on the trips that wouldn't be able to otherwise. A lot of hygiene products. And whether, we're not, it's not really listed here, but not necessarily boots and winter coats, but changes of clothes for certain kids that aren't able to, that can continue wearing the same clothes, and that goes with the hygiene products, and so we get them things to change into more often. Music supplies, the band is a big one too with us. And it's not just even getting access to instruments, but if they want to play the saxophone, there's a lot of expenses with various reeds and cleanings, different things that they need to do to keep the instruments working. So we also will help kids with that. We even have underwear down there. So there's a lot of different things that we buy for students, but a lot of school supplies too. As we start hitting like the heavier, they need to have a little bit more substantial calculators, and some of the kids can't afford those, so we pay for those. Things like that with it.
In high school, some of the same stuff as middle school and some holdovers from the elementary intermediate.
Yeah, really nothing that hasn't already been covered.
So this is all stuff that's made available not through district dollar. It could certainly happen through district dollar, but it doesn't here in the school district of Amery. It happens because of the generosity of this community. We're not putting out a call for that to occur, it's just happening. And that really speaks volumes about how supportive this community is of this district. And I think it's fantastic.
So do we typically, like, when we get donations in, do we typically, like, I guess, unless they're earmarked for something specific, how do we?
split it 4 ways.
Just split it 4 ways, and does it go
Typically.
into an account, and then you just have it when you need it, kind of thing, or?
It's in the angel fund account for each of the 4 buildings, unless it's earmarked for one, it goes to all 4.
And then we look for teachers to let us know if their students are in need of something, or if they're going on a field trip or something like that, that parents aren't able to afford the funds.
teachers know
Yes,
that that's-
absolutely.
Kids aren't
Yep.
one to really make that known, but there are certain connections they have in their day where it is known, and
Mhm.
it just sort of happens.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
it's
all the
a-
work that you guys
Yeah.
are doing to put the funds to good use and to the community for donating them, because,
Yep.
and I know Tom said, you know, we even have underwear on that, on the, but that's the stark reality in which we live, and I think that it's important for people to understand that and to know that, and, people obviously know that there's situations, and we appreciate all the help that we get to get these kids an even playing field.
Yep.
Absolutely, it's an amazing connection with the community. We're very thankful for it.
Very
Yeah.
thankful.
Well, I still think our staff kick in and help. That this is nice fun to help those, then,
Absolutely.
to do that. Okay, again, thank you. Next, we have your vaping.
Well, not me. We have detectors for that. Jeff and Josh are both in the room. That would not fly.
I was gonna say, does this go to like bonus?
I don't know. Here, check his ink pen.
Well, there were 5,000 plaintiffs in the Juul settlement. There were 5,000 entities, in essence, that were part of the class action lawsuit that was filed. There was a $1.2 billion settlement paid by Juul because of the harmful effects of Juul into youth, in essence, in the district. And you'll see the total sum of money of $27,263. And shockingly, that's 0.0049% of the total settlement. Just look at the list. We were like on page 26, and the first item on the list was New York Public School System. That was 23 million. So that's not a very good start for Juul. The money will be used for vape detection and vape prevention and education. We don't have any of that money yet. They said the first of, I don't know how many, maybe it's 27,263 checks will happen in July. I hope it's not like that. I don't know. They haven't given us more detail beyond what I have here. And you don't need to do anything to accept that. It's just maybe the only good thing that's ever come out of vape. I mean, I don't know.
So does Josh and Jeff get their their stipend bonus for their vape detection work
No-
that they've been doing, hiding
No
out the
bonus
bathrooms?
required. They're just doing their jobs. I always found it interesting in my days at the high school when I walked in and I saw 4 people in the stall at the same time with their feet facing the wrong direction. So that always seemed strange to me. I wonder what was going on.
They want to be plumbers.
They want to be plumbers. So there's the Juul settlement information.
Okay. Next, we'll have our first reading on public participation.
Okay, you'll see the public participation policy. You'll see the next item is where the changes, there are 2 items that go with this. It's in the exhibit, in essence. The exhibit at the bottom of the page, you will see in red, I believe the color is red. It states after the information that's already there, that's been there for a while now, please leave your name and contact information if you wish to be contacted by a member of the board or district administration regarding your community comments. Part of the conversation that we had about this, meaning the board and myself, is should be somebody get back to them if in fact they have a concern that they've come here and spent the time to articulate. The logistical part of that is we may not know who they are, so this would perhaps help us, because Keith reads this each time. They could leave their information and we could contact them. If maybe they don't want to leave their information, then we won't contact them. That's the simple, a sentence addition to the existing exhibit, and I'll turn it over to you. It's first reading, so it's just, you're hearing it for the first time.
No, I agree. It's been difficult to know how to contact people when they don't leave their information.
Yeah. Gives them an opportunity.
And I think that we should have someone respond and get back to people, especially if they're asking a question or if they want feedback when they come here to make a community comment. So one of the discussions that Sean and I had, though, was, who does that? Is that a member of the board? Does the board talk and respond together? Is that the district administrator? And I
Sure.
don't know that we've completely answered that question, but
No, I don't think we have it. I mean, there has been times where they said, and I would like you to give me a call back, and they're looking at me, so, okay, I'll do that. It could be any one of you, it could be more than one of you, it could be
Yeah.
me. And sometimes they truly don't want, I mean, we've had folks that have been out of here as fast as they can get out of here, and I just like, well, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Do they want us to contact them, and they don't give us any signal about that? Through this, if they want to leave their information, we would contact them, certainly.
I think it's important when we do that, if somebody's looking for an answer, sometimes board members don't have the answer to give. Either we're not privy to the information that they're asking about, we don't have it exactly at our fingertips, where that would be largely in effect of the district administrator or a building administrator in some cases. So then that circles around then who does that? Where do then, if a board member were to contact Sean to get that information, but if we're answering on behalf of a board, then we should all have the same answer. I mean, neither one of us, no one of us has an answer that we can give, and then all of a sudden I contact another board member and they have a completely different answer. That creates confusion and problems and more angst in situation and feelings of not being transparent or ethical or forthcoming. So I think if you're looking for information, if you're coming here, many times the district administrator would be the one that has that information.
I believe I would be in the best position to respond, but I'm, by no means am I disinclined to have one of you respond. Just remember, you're speaking as your particular individual thoughts on the subject, rather than I'm speaking on behalf of the board.
Well, and as always, our phone numbers are always available online.
I would encourage folks to engage apart from board meetings, because it's actually more effective to do that than it is to come to a board meeting, because you're sort of restricted in regards to how you can respond by open meetings law. It's a little harder.
Yep.
I think there's a different situation of somebody's personally reaching out to a particular board member, and it would be incumbent on the particular board member to, if they didn't know the answer for certain, to call Sean and ask, and then reach back out to that person. But that's different. You're doing that as one board member that somebody had come to and ask a question. Where I feel like that there's a difference when somebody comes to a board meeting and addresses the board as a whole and looking for an answer, then the board as a whole should either be responding to that, or I believe that Sean would be in a better position to do that
Well, and
effectively.
The other thought I had was that, when some people come here and they speak for community comments, that we could take the time to come up with a response for the next board meeting. I don't think that we should respond on the spot, because we don't always have the information, and we should have time to process it and come up with an adequate answer. But it even seems like it would be nice for the public in general to know what happened or what was the follow-up for someone's community comments at the next board meeting, for us to say something like, last month we had community comments about such and such, that person was contacted and, and had a conversation with a person that, whatever their concern was, if it was curriculum or if it was, whatever the issue was. I think that the general public likes to know that it has been followed up on, and that there has been some follow-up on, some discussion on what was discussed at community comments. Otherwise, they hear somebody's community comments, and then they might not hear anything about it ever again. Maybe it comes up in a future board meeting, but maybe not. And so that's an idea that, again, I brought up with Sean, and it's not something that's talked about really in this policy, but I think the public likes to know what happened with someone's community comments, where it went. So, I don't know.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move to our action items.
Okay. Second reading on graduation-related policies. There's a couple listed there. You'll see in the policy numbered 345.5. There is a section there midway down in blue, and I'm gonna, typically don't read slides to you, but we're talking policy, so I'm gonna read it to you. This is the Amery High School graduation policy. It states, the school district of Amery recognizes that graduation is reserved as the time and place to publicly declare that members of the Amery High School senior class have met the necessary academic requirements to graduate. Yet, the district also asserts that there is a place reserved in the graduation ceremony to acknowledge members of the senior class who are foreign exchange students. Foreign exchange students have not been students at Amery High School the entirety of their academic career, and therefore have not met the necessary graduation requirements, though foreign exchange students are allowed to participate in graduation in recognition of the symbolic place that the graduation ceremony holds as the end of an academic career at Amery High School. Foreign exchange students may participate in the graduation ceremony if they are a member of the senior class. Foreign exchange students will not receive an Amery High School diploma. In addition, foreign exchange students will not be included in the class rankings established by grade point average and will not be eligible for honors status at graduation ceremony. So that is the addition to 345.5, and then the same language is in 353 in but a sentence about the diploma and the participation. You'll see it there on the screen, and you've already seen that part of it. So those are the two policies, and then there's a policy that's referenced at the bottom, a youth options policy. We don't have, youth options doesn't exist anymore, so that's why that's crossed out, and you're actually getting rid of our policy in a couple of minutes here as an agenda item, because it just doesn't exist anymore. And I'll turn it over to you for any discussion you may have.
So when it says by the additional criteria, by successfully completing an alternative school program consisting of 28 credits and passing all tests in order to receive a high school equivalency diploma, those students are being recognized at graduation?
I'll defer to Josh on that one, what the present status is.
Kids who go through the alternative ed program do have an alternate path to graduation.
And that alternative path to graduation, then they would be included in the graduation ceremony here at the Amery High School?
Correct. But there is a third path, that's just the state minimums, that is considerably lower, and those students do not.
So I'm a little confused because here, that note says HSED in parentheses, but then down below, it looks like we're getting rid of the HSED program.
It should just be youth options crossed off, not HSED.
We don't have an in-house HSED program. We can contract through Northwood Tech or Chippewa Valley Tech, but we do not have an HSED at Amery.
And those kids then would participate generally in the WITC program, correct?
That is correct.
Or Northwood's Tech program, right?
That is correct.
Graduation ceremony.
Yes.
They're usually recognized first before the graduates that come out of earning certificates, right?
I've never attended the Northwood Tech ceremony.
So, in this policy, there's nothing about behavior, attendance, fees that would disqualify or preclude somebody from participating in graduation ceremony.
So in our high school policies, we do have stuff about, you have to, all your fines and fees have to be paid. If you go over your allotted days, you have to make up time before you can go through the ceremony. That's all listed in the high school policies.
So there's a standard in the high school policy that also must be met in addition to just these 28 credits.
Yeah, I would say basically it keeps you from skipping school the last 3-4 weeks of your senior year after you've turned 18 years of age, and we don't have a whole lot to hold them accountable at that point. That and the fines and fees, some of these kids, if, for instance, if they take shop classes or something, they could have 4 or 5, I don't know what the largest number Sean's ever seen in fees to be paid at the end of the day, but we're already working with families right now just so they don't have sticker shock when we get to May 17th, so that they're, and we tell them all the time where they're at on these.
Mm-hmm. But those are preclusions to, even if you're earning a diploma, that they're not allowed to participate in the
Correct.
ceremony. Doesn't matter if they've spent 13 years here, going through school.
If they,
Part of the
if they
senior
owe-
class, the
if-
whole shebang.
If they owe fines, if they owe time, they don't participate.
My first year at the high school, there was no checkout card procedure where you had to go and sign off, guidance office that you had the necessary academic requirements. And one of those stops was to see the building secretary, who at that point in time was Melissa Lee. And she said to me, we've never done this before, this will be interesting, because folks were walking out the door owing all kinds of money that had never been paid. The first year we did it, we collected $7,000 the last day of seniors, because they had to pay in order to graduate, and we've been doing it ever since. The number is much lower now than it was then, but you have to get signed off before you leave, yes.
And what is the numbers? Have we had anybody in that situation in the past 5 years that didn't graduate because of those issues?
Not that I'm aware of.
It doesn't happen, they pay, when they have to pay the money to graduate, they all of a sudden seem to have the money.
Right, well, I mean,
Thumbs up, yeah.
even regardless of just paying fees, but I'm talking in regards to behavior, attendance. You drop the ball at the 11th hour and you go out partying and you're caught doing something, and has that ever been?
Not on my watch.
Not
We
typically.
have, there are a handful of students right now that are spending time after school every day making up hours, and we've been in communication with them for a long time, and their families know, and so they're working away at it right now.
The biggest reason you don't graduate is you haven't met the academic requirements. I mean, that's really, you failed a
So-
bunch of
Well,
classes.
there's a difference between graduating and going through the graduation ceremony.
That is correct.
Correct.
Sean,
Yes,
how
sir.
do you want this motion stated?
Well, the motion would be to accept the Amery High School graduation policy 345.5 as it's written, if you're looking to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the Amery High School graduation policy 345.5.
I'll second that.
I guess I'd like to say something a little bit in reference to what Char said, because here, it really doesn't include any conduct by the foreign exchange students in the policy.
But aren't there gonna be other policies under student conduct
But
that
it
adhere
won't,
to
it
that?
won't matter for the graduation, the way it's written.
Well,
So they
Char-
would still do it. They would still be participating in the graduation ceremony had they done something or still owed money or whatever. And I'm
Well,
just wondering if
nothing-
there should be
nothing is-
some verbiage in here that would say that.
Right, but nothing is listed here for anybody, I think is Char's point, so maybe there should be something in the policy that references these, that these other requirements must be met before being able to participate in the ceremony. But I think that's true for everybody.
I think that's true for everything. I think our handbooks, even like WIA, all those things, right? I mean, those cover that. I mean, I would assume that
You're
the foreign
covered by
exchange
the
students-
last paragraph. If you could scan up a little bit, Becky, it says, "The district administrator shall be responsible for the general supervision and management of the graduation policy. The district administrator, or if assigned the responsibility by the district administrator, the high school principal, shall determine whether a student has satisfied the criteria in this policy." So if somebody engaged in inappropriate behavior, unlawful behavior, whatever it is, Josh and high school administration has the discretion to pull that kid out of the graduation ceremony. I've had those situations myself, too.
Could we change that then, instead of has satisfied the criteria in this policy? Could we just change it to has satisfied the criteria to participate in graduation?
Doesn't matter to me.
I mean, because then
It's
you're
your
not.
discretion, but that wouldn't be a game changer for me. I don't know if it would be a game changer for you, Josh. I can't imagine.
It says the same thing, it's just not holding this policy only accountable.
Right, because this policy isn't specific to those different things.
Yeah, I mean, the scenarios that I'm thinking of that, I know Sean did this prior to my time, and you guys probably all heard the same exact speech when you went on a senior picnic or something like that. If anybody shows up drunk, whatever,
Yes.
you're not going through the ceremony. You just try to make sure that they're gonna make good decisions, not show up for their last day of school under the influence.
Right.
And just so long as, if we hold to that philosophy that the board is going to back us on that, that's an important thing for us. I don't want to tell a student something and then
Right.
be told later, you're letting them go through the ceremony.
Right. And I think that's where it broadens that scope a little bit to not just this policy, because basically this policy just talks about credits to graduation. So if we eliminate that and just say the criteria to participate in a
You got
graduation
first and
ceremony.
You got a motion for in first and seconded.
Yeah, but we can't have discussion.
I'd like a vote.
Well, you have to, you either have to call for one, or,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can still debate this. I
Yeah.
mean, it is debatable.
Yep.
But you can
Generally,
certainly call.
Are you gonna
Probably
really
rules.
put every exigent circumstance
No.
on here?
No, and I
No,
think that's why we're
no.
covering that, just if I'm asking just to strike out the word
In this
in this policy and replace it with,
Nothing, just period.
says satisfied the criteria to participate in graduation ceremony.
That's the amendment, then you would simply have a new motion to adopt what Joe said, plus
Yeah.
that clause. Then you
Yeah.
have yourself a new motion, if that's what you want to do. For me, I'm deferring to Josh and high school administration and who's to make it, and who's not. And they know it better because they've lived with it for 4 years.
I'll make a motion to amend the main motion of accepting policy 345.5, making motion to amend by striking the words in this policy and replace them to participate in graduation ceremony, so that if passed, the main motion would read to adopt policy 345.5 with the amendment.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment to that policy, a motion, signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? There we go. Now, any more discussion on the main motion? Okay. All those in favor of that, that was what, Joe and Aaron? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? There we go. All right. Now we'll go on to our agenda preparation and dissemination.
All right, the conversation last month was what would be the parameters if someone repeatedly brought something forward to put on the agenda. Basically, what it states here is, and agenda items, it's right in the middle of the first paragraph, agenda items which are repeatedly requested to be on the board meeting agenda may be rejected by joint decision of the board president and the district administrator. At the top, there is another clause that was added, per your request, if the topic is materially related to the work of the school district of Amery or Amery Board of Education. That was a clause added as well. So those are the two changes since you saw this last in the month of March.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda preparation and dissemination policy 171.2.
Second.
All right. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? There we go. And so we are eliminating the youth options and,
You can vote no, but I'm not really sure what that would mean. It's gone. It's gone.
yeah. All
Well,
right.
do we have, so I guess, I'm still going back to that graduation policy that says they can successfully complete this HSED program, but then we don't actually offer one.
Right.
Correct.
It's not
So
in-house.
it seems
not
like,
ours.
it seems like,
Used to be ours. We used to do what's called Guido 2, which is the GED Part 2. That's back in the day. That's way back. HSED is farmed out to Northwoods.
so it seems like that should get changed on the graduation policy if that is not something we're actually offering.
Which part should be changed?
That they can successfully complete an alternative school program in order to receive a HSED.
I don't think you should spell out specifically the title of the program, but there are alternative pathways to graduate, and I think that's determined by high school administration, because it could be a different title next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this talks about two different things. So the HSED is basically the pathway to it, but this is the actual program itself.
Yeah.
The way I'm understanding that. Is that correct, Josh?
Yeah, and the thing I want to make sure you guys don't get confused about is what kind of used to be referred to as the youth options is now basically the Start College Now program that I talk to you guys about every 6 months. And,
Yep.
we have it's grown, and we have a number of students that have really benefited from this program.
All right. Do we have a motion to eliminate this policy 343.11?
I'll make a motion to eliminate 343.11.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Char. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've eliminated paper. All right, next listening sessions.
This is a draft proposal per your feedback in regards to listening sessions. It's technically, as it's titled here on the screen, public presentation and listening sessions. There's two portions of each and every meeting beginning on July 5th. The first portion is a presentation by district personnel. Who would be doing the presentation would depend on what the topic is. The first there is, you see batting leadoff is the 23-24 budget, so that would likely be Twyla and I and whoever our new director of finance is. And then after that, there would be a listening session. Folks can chime in on 23-24 budget if they wanted to, or they can chime in on anything else that they see fit that's materially related to the work that you do. There are topics scheduled over the course of a calendar year. You'll see them listed there. Then at the bottom of the page, there are two caveats. The Board of Education will take no formal action on any presented or discussed topics, so you're not going to take a vote, if you will. And then the Amery Board of Education is there to hear feedback from the community. We have to be careful about open meetings law. If we start getting into a conversation about items that weren't put on an agenda and publicly posted, then we get issues. So before we get to July 5th, we'll have to firm up the language as to exactly what would occur there, and the attorneys would have to help us do that, because I'm not an open meetings law expert, but we want to follow the law by any means, by all means. So this is a proposal, and you can do with it what you will. This is just a start point, so to speak.
I think it's a great idea. Like, you know, it's my feedback. I know I'm not going to be on the board. But I would still like to see some of them offered not on Wednesdays because,
Okay.
again, I feel like, for people that are committed on Wednesday nights that, then it's hard to make these meetings, any
Sure.
of them. So, I guess that's my feedback, is that if some of them could be offered on different nights, once in a while, or alternate or something. That's my suggestion.
Those that are staff that are attending these meetings should be compensated. Because it's an extra meeting for them, it's an extra night, it's not, if it's these people or,
Well, these
whatever.
folks have in their contract the compensation
Yep.
for nightly meetings, but if it's someone that's, like,
Well,
for instance, School
like
Farm and
School Farm
Construction Academy,
Construction,
that's
you're gonna have
Derek and
or
Josh.
Yeah.
Sure, if
You know.
that's what you want us to do, we certainly would. I can't imagine that either of those two would ever ask, but certainly.
Well,
In many cases,
understand.
it'll be one of these folks or just me or somebody else, district
Yeah.
office related. I try to put the topics where they're most relevant, like for
Mm-hmm.
instance, the annual meeting and budget hearing. That isn't the actual annual meeting and budget hearing,
Yeah.
but it is a preview of what's gonna happen 3 weeks later, so folks can come and chime in. Because when we have that annual meeting and budget hearing, there's really not a place to weigh in. Here they could. And I imagine that might be something that someone would be interested in. If you look at the school calendar, we're approving a school calendar in the month of January. If you have it already positioned, so to speak, in the month of November, you could have a working session where folks in the community could weigh in, say something as simple as, do we or do we not have a spring break? That would be the time to do it, because once it's passed in January, the ship is sailed, so to speak. So I just try to put them strategically, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the concerns I had was the need for a legal policy to accompany this if we're engaging with the public, that they're looking for responses from the board, that those would be the only things that we could engage on is the topic that is presented. If they're here to speak on other issues, they would have to either take that up in another meeting, or we would have to request to put it on another agenda item or another listening session altogether, due to open meeting laws. And then I guess my concern is that we have another board member starting next month, and they should have input for this schedule, and how this looks. And I guess by taking action on this tonight, we're kind of denying that sitting board member who this will affect for the coming year, that opportunity. So for that reason, I'd like to table the decision on this until next month.
So you made a motion to table?
Yes.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dale? Okay. All in favor, say
Can we
aye.
have a little further discussion?
Sure. Yep.
I guess just your thought about, compensating people for coming to these meetings. I guess I just feel like that could get tricky as far as trying to figure out who's getting compensated and who's not and things like that. And, if this is your kind of area that you're heading up or leading, you have meetings on things all the time. You know what I mean? You get scheduled meetings once in a while that you need
Oh.
to attend. So I guess I feel like,
But mine's encompassing, so when you're asking like Derek or Josh to come in, they're not contracted for a night meeting.
Well,
That's
on the
all I'm
whole
saying.
list of 12, the only ones that I see where you would need someone
Yeah.
beyond these folks or myself would be that one and potentially the curriculum order.
Right.
But
Well,
other
the-
than that, it would likely
Yeah.
not be.
Yeah.
And honestly, the motion on the floor is to table, so any discussion that would center around this right now would either be on, to put this on the table or not, so.
I would be happy to talk to WASB and get the rules of engagement for you so you're following the law. We obviously want to follow the law. But
Right.
they would be the experts, not me.
right.
And it wouldn't be, and if the first meeting is not till July, it isn't the end of the world to wait till May.
Because other districts have listening sessions.
Sure, absolutely, and more, according to my meeting on this past Friday up at CISA, more and more are doing just this.
Yep.
So people can come in and weigh in.
Yeah,
So the motion still on the floor is
to table.
to table this.
Yes. So to table this until further investigation with WASBA or whatever. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There we go. We'll look at her next month.
Okay. Couple weeks ago, we put out bid for the property across the land. We need some surveying done of the construction lots, which would be on the southwest corner off of Otis, in that sort of rectangular portion of the school land, which is presently is corn crop, or is going to be here after we're going in. And we received one bid back to do that work, and that was from Northland Surveying, and that was for the total amount of $3,400. I'm not sure if you want to take these separately or part of, they're listed separately, so I guess I'll turn it over to you. Do what you want with this one.
I'll make a motion that we approve the land survey bid.
All right.
Second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There we go.
And then the second bid was to put in 21.6 acres of corn. That's to fertilize it, till it, weed control it, harvest it, haul it, and then to create a 5-acre corn maze. That's used around Halloween time and also during fall festival time. Gives Keith an opportunity to use his tractor skills.
There we go.
And Paula, don't leave Paula out.
And Paula, yes. It's not a smooth ride, I can tell you that. And we'll work collaboratively with Amery FFA and Derek Meyer, and that's a bid for $1,000 to do that work.
I'll make a motion, we approve the school farm crop bid.
Second.
Second, Char. Hey, you want to say something, Joe?
Yeah, so we're gonna pay somebody to rent our land?
We're paying someone to put in a corn crop and paying someone to put in a corn maze.
This corn stays with the school.
Yes.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
sell
Our
this
corn.
corn.
We sell
This,
okay.
you can't, this $1,000 can't beat it. Farmer girl,
Yeah.
can't beat
Yeah,
it.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I was just
yeah.
gonna say, like, well, this
No.
doesn't make any
No,
sense.
no, no, no. It's the same thing that we actually just did last year.
It's a
Okay.
huge
So,
gift.
yes, it's a
Yeah.
huge,
Yeah. Okay.
I
huge
think
deal.
revenue was.
Yeah, thank you
around
then.
Yes.
16,000
Yes.
last year.
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I
Good
would say a
question.
big thank you to
Mingle.
Mingle.
Minglewood and Philippe
Yes.
for doing that, so.
There is a meeting on May 8th, and both Minglewood and Northland will be there to talk to us about timelines and processes. Northland's simply waiting for the snow to melt, which has happened now, but I'm sure it's pretty messy back there. And we're waiting also for the snow melt to put in a crop, but both of them know what they're up to, and they're gonna meet with us on the 8th.
Great.
Yeah, the corn maze, Derek said yesterday, 1,200 were counted to go through, that they knew of.
And we charged. Well, we didn't. I mean, the FFA,
Right.
it was a fundraiser for the FFA,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yes.
so, works good. All right, so we got that? And vote on that? Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We passed that.
I
We're all
know.
good.
All right.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I was too. I know I got a first and a second, but I didn't any.
in that one.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If you want to call for, you know what, we'll just call
Yep,
for
let's
a
call
vote
for a
again.
vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? There we go. We got it covered. And Becky's like, thank you.
Yeah. She's probably like, yeah, I don't think we did. Yeah, maybe we did.
All right. And this is from our meeting.
Yes. We met this past Thursday to talk about what you see here. We ran through the compensation documents for certified staff and support staff. There were a couple of changes that you requested be made. Most of those changes were simply for clarity's sake. So you'll see those. The items in yellow are the same as you saw them on Thursday. So this is the certified staff document. And
Do you want me just to go to the one change?
you go to the one change, there it is in the paragraph. The change that you'll see there in red is, well, first of all, in black, you'll see where it says current rate of sub-pay has been changed to $130. It's the current rate of sub-pay right now is $130, so it doesn't change in value. And then we struck the verbiage there about 2324 and $100, and then beneath also for 2324 and $50. You can take that matter up next spring if you want to, or if you don't want to. We're just taking it out because it isn't a change being made for this coming year. So that was the change in that document. Questions or comments about that particular change?
Oh, that looks good.
Is that
Okay.
the one, Dale? Did you bring that one up?
The sub-pay?
Yeah.
I know we talked about it.
Yeah, we kind of all had the discussion
on
about
Thursday,
what's gonna happen in the
our
future.
last Thursday. And I remember, I mean, we kind of talked about the 130 for next year, certainly, and then after that is maybe, I think, to be determined, I guess.
You probably, yeah, adjust the rate. All right. Well, you want to do this all in one?
They're listed separately. Certified
So-
staff is on one line and support staff on the other.
Okay.
But there's the handbook as well, so let's get through
Yep.
that before you say any more. So the handbook changes, again, per your request.
I don't believe there were any on that.
I don't think there were.
Yeah.
So just.
So there's just the change that we just made reference to.
Yep.
So I'll let you do that one if you want to do that one.
So do we have a motion for changes to the compensation handbook?
Yes, I moved to accept the changes as made to the certified handbook and compensation and benefits.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Dale? Did you want to say something there?
I mean, I was gonna second it, but I was also gonna say that, you know, just, again, for general public, to know that we are discussing, we are hoping to move the salary schedule up, but we just don't have that available now because we don't have the budget available now. So
Yep.
as of right now, we're not changing the salary, but we are hoping that that will.
So
We know
update
the
in
numbers.
regards to state budget, there's one last listening session in the state up in, up in the northeast corner on April 26th. There were 2 or 3 last week, so that's the last one. After that, it goes to joint finance, they have that conversation, and then it goes to the broader legislature as a whole. Tony Evers' budget proposal is already out there, so at that point, they'll broker out the differences, and hopefully they will come to us with a clear number and plan as to what they're gonna do. There was an expert at CISA that works state lobbying in regards to schools and school finance. Their estimation, he said this is not on inside knowledge, but their estimation as to when we will know what schools will receive from the state of Wisconsin in regards to aid is June. June is okay, because we don't start paying anything different until July.
Yep.
But I don't know which part of June. June 30th is probably not very helpful.
No.
June 1st would be more helpful, but that's just what I know as it stands.
I think we've done retroactive before.
We have, if we have to, if you decide to move forward, but we don't know what the state's gonna do, so we're just in a holding pattern.
Yep, yep. So a
And
motion.
on top of that, you're only, I mean, you're looking at 2.9 to 3 or 3%.
Right around 3,
or-
right around 3, it's like 2.9 something.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to make the changes to the certified staff handbook and compensation benefits guide. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No, there we go.
So this is the support staff document. So the flip side of the same coin, so to speak. And we'll go to the changes that were made since we met last. In that paragraph, you'll see the changes of, after 1 year of employment, staff who work primarily outdoors to perform their duties are eligible to be reimbursed up to $100 per school year. We had talked about that. Receipts for qualifying purchases must be presented to the employee's supervisor within 30 days of the purchase within the current school year. Winter attire reimbursements will be paid through payroll and are not considered WRS reportable earnings. So that was changed language from the last time we talked. And that was the same one. Each employee will start the year with a balance of PTO remaining from the previous year and will earn upon completion of each month worked in whole or in part one additional PTO. So yes, that means if you are here for just a couple of days in a month, you would get a PTO. If you're here for the whole month, you would get a PTO. Here's the logic behind taking that disposition about it. It's impossible to have all this side tracking of when someone arrived. It just becomes unsustainable. So this is the only PTO they get for that particular month. So let's just call it a day and give it to them at the end of that month so we can track it. That's the logic. Now, you can certainly ask us to do it different if you want to, but that's the logic. Other changes in that area, I don't think there is much more. Oh, yep, there's one more. An employee who resigns or retires from their position will be paid their accrued vacation days at their current rate of pay. So that's a change. That's guidance that we received, that we would do that, and for clarity's sake, we would do that. I can't remember if there's
And
anything
then I think
else.
there's that other sentence, an employee who's terminated will forfeit their vacation days.
Yep. We talked about that last time, that remained the same.
But I still think that doesn't match the verbiage on.
It does, because one's for retirement and the other's not for retirement. So one we have to pay and the other we do not.
But I'm looking at page 5.
Okay?
Where it's highlighted in the gray, where it says, in the case of a separation of employment due to a resignation or termination, the employee will forfeit their PTO days.
That you're reading from the box, I'm not really sure where you're reading.
No, I'm reading from page 5,
under
right above
retirement.
uniforms.
Okay, let's find that and then we can talk.
Do you know what I'm saying? That
Well-
the one on page 7 says that if they're terminated, they forfeit their PTO days, but if they resign or retire, they're paid out. This one says due to resignation or termination, so that if they resign, that they are forfeiting their PTO days. Those conflict.
Two different kinds of days, PTO and vacation.
Yeah.
Are treated
Page 7
differently.
is vacation.
PTO has to do with retirement and getting paid out in retirement for sick days.
Okay.
So we don't pay that out when they resign or are terminated, but vacation we do.
It is unclear, but it is an excellent question, but it's simply two different categories of days.
And the other one was inclement weather days.
Inclement weather, an employee who resigns or retires from their position, oh, that's not the one.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
I'm like a robot now all of a
I
sudden.
know. We just included
Yes.
custodians.
So, all custodians are expected to report to work on inclement weather, remote learning days. All other support staff are not expected to report. Support staff, including custodians, who do not report for part or all in the inclement weather, remote learning day, and work to be paid must use a PTO. So if you're required to report as a custodian, you say, I'm using a PTO, and you use a PTO and you're not coming to work. And the custodians, the reason that they would report and others would not, we're talking snow removal, because the contracted service does not do sidewalks and drives, they do parking lots. So those are the first set of changes. Those are handbook, or those are compensation and benefits changes, and then there's a handbook as well.
Again, I don't believe the handbook had any changes.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So if there are no changes, then we would need an action if you want to adopt that.
I'll make a motion that we approve the support staff handbook and compensation and benefits.
I'll second it.
Joe, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? There we go.
I just would like to say, again, with the same caveat, that we would like to be moving these pay scales up, but we are waiting for budget. Hope to do that.
All right, and we did our staff insurance, so we've just got our contracts.
Okay, you're here this evening. You see in your red folder, if you look there, you'll see 23, 24 certified staff contracts. What you're being asked to do is to approve contracts for support staff, certified staff, and administrative staff. The district's office position was that you would need to know who you're approving contracts for, so that's why you have this in front of you.
Yep.
This gives you a list of who they are and where they are. At the top of the page, 23, 24, you will see the estimated cost of natural growth on the salary scale. So someone does professional development, they move from a C3 to a D1, they increase their wage. The total amount of dollars on natural growth is $112,000. The salary savings from the 3 positions that have been eliminated is $133, so you actually come out ahead, which is what I said last week, by about $20,000. We don't know what's going to occur in regards to the future, in regards to budget. There is an estimation there of an additional 186, but you're not approving any increases in this. You're just approving contracts for folks with just natural growth. We're not changing the salary scale. So for full disclosure's sake, that's what is listed there at the top of that page. For letters of appointment, the estimated cost of natural growth is $45,000, and this is every support staff person in district. There aren't any reductions in staff there. There's more movement, if the truth be told, in support staff, because there's more of them, and there's greater turnover in support staff just by history's sake. We know that to be true. So again, to know who you're talking about when you approve contracts, this is everybody. And then lastly, you have, we got 2 more. Bus driver contracts. The natural growth here is an estimated amount of $3,400 for these individuals to receive letters of appointment, or contracts for driving bus. And then lastly, the non-certified district staff, which is in essence the district team, and then the certified administrative staff, the folks sitting across from me and a few others. There isn't any natural growth to any of their contracts. What they are making now is what they would make next year unless we move them forward. They don't have steps and lanes and alternative compensations and such, but these are the people that you would be approving contracts for. So that's the last of the list for contracts, and you can make that action however you see fit in regards to approval of contracts. The notion of approving contracts here in April is we want to get them contracts before they depart for the summer, because once they depart, they're pretty hard to track down. And we want to do that again here in the next couple of weeks and do their open enrollment period for the health insurance as well. So we're all locked in for next year from a staffing picture standpoint.
Make a motion that we,
If I could just say,
Yes, go
just
ahead.
for the record, I will abstain from the certified staff voting.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you should take them probably then one at a time.
Separate, yeah.
okay.
Yep,
I'll
okay.
make a motion that we approve the contracts for support staff.
All right.
Second.
And Dale, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. There we go.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contracts for certified staff.
Second.
And Shar, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And Dale's out there. Motion for administrative staff.
First, I'll make a motion for the bus driver contracts.
I was gonna say, it wasn't put on there, on the agenda.
Second.
Consider them support staff.
They are part of the sport, aren't they? Bus drivers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we've got them covered.
All right, then I'll withdraw my motion and make a motion for the administrative and district contracts.
All right, and a second?
I'll second that.
Shar, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. There we go. Now we'll go on to donations.
Okay, donations to the district. We have a thank you to the Amery Public Library for your donation of bookshelves to the Amery Intermediate School. And thank you to the Wisconsin chapter of Pheasants Forever for their donation of $500 to the high school trap shooting team. Those are your two donations this month.
Wow. Thank you so much. Motion to accept our donations?
I'll make a motion, we accept those donations to the
Dale.
district.
Second?
I'll second it.
Joe? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. There we go. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Man,
Very cool.
yes. All right. Next, we have the school board election results.
Okay, you'll see on the screen the official school board election results post-canvas. So you'll see the total number of votes at the bottom of the page, and then your write-ins on the far right there. Steve Osero had 1,583 votes. Del Stone had 1,393 votes, and we had 11 write-ins. This has been canvassed, and those would be our official results. So Steve Osero would take his seat next month. He would take his oath of office here this evening. So we're oath of office time, so that's where we're at.
You got the.
Come on up.
I'm just glad you got it done today, because this says the 17th.
Don't worry.
2.5 hours to go.
We got a ways to go.
Funny guy.
You're gonna get a lot of that. All right, you need me to raise my hand and the whole works?
Yep.
All right. I, Steve Osro, who have been duly elected to the Board of Education of the School District of Amery, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Now, there's an item that's sort of pseudo-connected to the school board election results, and that is we need a delegate to CISA 11 in regards to representing our interests here, so to speak, and that's a board member, and unfortunately, that board member was Aaron, so we have a vacancy there. So I'm not sure if anyone would like to fill that seat. If you don't know now, I understand. There is an obligation, there are some meetings to attend.
So, can I
Go
explain real
ahead,
quick?
yep, you know it better than I.
So I've been on the CISA Board of Control for almost 5 years, and I hold the at-large position, and it is up for election in June, but technically the School District of Amery holds the seat, and since I will no longer be on the board, we should have someone attend from Amery at the May meeting before the election in June. So the meeting is on Thursday, May 11th at 7 p.m. At CISA in Turtle Lake. So if someone would like to, otherwise, I was talking with Kim Robel today in CISA 11. I think if no one fills that position, technically it would go to the next school board, at least for the May meeting, because that position needs to be filled technically for the May meeting. And then it, again, my term is up for election at the June meeting, which is on Monday, June 5th, I believe.
It is.
So, I mean, you don't have to do both. You can just go to the May meeting and be the delegate for that one meeting, and then somebody else could go to the meeting on June 5th as our delegate and decide if they want to run for the position. The June meeting is held right after the annual meeting. So the annual meeting, every school district in the CISA should have a representative there. And then afterwards is just the people that are on the Board of Control.
Do we have a volunteer?
I've done it before, so.
So what?
So I get to appoint somebody. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Work with me here.
I'm working, I'm trying.
No, I can attend that meeting.
The May 11th meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm working.
there. You're working? Well, I am too.
Not at 7 o'clock at night, you're not.
I could be.
I know.
Leave the gate open and I'll be working. All right. No. I'll put that on my calendar.
Thanks, Kate.
All right. Next, we've got the personnel, right?
Yes. So we have new employment contracts and extracurricular contracts for Rita Benitez in Clubhouse as an assistant teacher, Cora Bebo, high school English, Caleb Fremling, fourth grade teacher, Maria Long, middle school cross-country assistant coach, Bailey Peterson, fourth grade teacher. Reassignments, you saw 2 of those. Sonia Kelly moving from AIM to grade 5. Maggie Peterson moving from PBL to lower elementary Montessori. Andy Wolf, you actually saw all of them from 3rd grade to 4th grade. Resignations from Holly Andrews in 5th grade, Jenny Benesek kindergarten, Jody Boucher in AIM, Brooke Kylan in AIM, Chris McNamara as director of finance, and then 2 retirements, Eileen Flatten in special ed as a para, and Deanna Johnson school psych. I actually have, I'll let you do your thing, and then I have a couple of items in regards to our retirees and a message from Chris McNamara.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept personnel?
So moved.
Aaron, second?
I'll second.
Joe, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No, there we go.
Chris's statement to us, or in her letter of resignation, she went back to her prior employers, what happened there. Thank you and all of the district staff for the opportunity to work in a great school system with great employees that work very hard to help children in this district achieve success. Everyone in the district gave me a warm welcome, and I loved being part of this team, but I had an opportunity I just couldn't pass up at this time. The people I worked with in the district office worked very hard to ensure taxpayers' dollars are spent wisely and reported according to Wisconsin DPI guidelines. I have a lot of respect for this office and school finance. Again, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to work for the school district of Amery. And I will certainly give others the opportunity to weigh in on our retirees, but I do have some words that was shared with me from Eileen and also from Deanna. I'll start with Eileen. We ask standard questions each year. The first answer is, how long have you been here in essence? I have worked for 29 years in education, all in Amery. Initially, I was hired as a 45 minutes a day working at the old intermediate school supervising breakfast. Within a few months, I applied for and accepted a special ed para position at the middle school. I've been in that same position my entire career. Jessica's probably gonna need a box of Kleenexes here soon. I have many interesting stories of working with middle school special ed kids. I bet she does. I once had a student bring me a brownie from home that had a bite taken out of it. And she told me that she didn't think I'd mind because she said it tasted so good. And she felt we were such good friends. I also had a young man write an essay about how I helped him survive middle school. His conclusion was, everyone should have a Mrs. Flatten in their life, and if you don't, then get one. For the past 12 summers, I've been working, helping our special education students pass the classroom portion of driver's ed. I have not had a summer vacation in many years. I really am looking forward to having my summers off, sleeping in, traveling, but most specifically, being able to spend more time with my husband, children, and 5 beautiful grandchildren. So I'm not sure if Tom or Jessica want to share anything about Eileen.
Well, I worked with Eileen for 24 years. One of the first people I actually met when I came in, just an amazing person and invaluable. She's going to be really hard to replace, and we're going to miss her greatly. I haven't, the person that worked closer with her, the closest with her than anyone is Jess, so I don't know if Jess wants to say a few words.
I really can't right now.
Okay, you could encourage them to vote no.
Yes.
Oh, that already happened. Oh, that was over.
Rescind that. All right, Deanna Johnson. Deanna has been in education for 33 years, 33 years in Amery. 2 years were only 50% in Amery because I worked for CISA, and then Clear Lake and Clayton made up the other 50%. Favorite memories? When you, I think she's referring to me, were a principal, you would entertain us at high school pupil services meetings. I'm not sure if I was the entertainment. With video clips related to stressful situations or other things that were occurring, and we would all laugh. Or teasing Cheryl Wesley for inappropriate names kids would call her. That happens in special ed. And everyone was shocked because they didn't think 4th graders could swear like that. They can. Or when Jim called and you had to leave our meeting early because the bonfire for homecoming the night before was still burning and you were supposed to go put it out. That was a true story. It was very exciting for me. Josh remembers it well, I'm sure. Collaborating with groups of staff members smarter than me on individual kids to develop plans and ideas of how to program for them better makes me feel feel good about being an educator. Looking forward to in retirement, sleeping through the night and not waking up at 2 a.m. worried about a present or past IEP meeting or how to handle a difficult student the next day. Making up for missed winter vacation times with my kids as they would always have a different spring break than me. And I'm not sure if you wanted to chime in, Josh or Jessica or Brad, in regards to Deanna.
I'll just say about Deanna, in my 23 years here, I don't think I've met anybody that advocates as strongly on behalf of students as she does. Every time when my frustration level was up to here, Deanna always was coming up with another solution, respectfully, and John, I would imagine you would say the same thing. She was an advocate for children till the end, so.
I would second Josh's thoughts. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with her for the last 2 years. Her experience and knowledge, especially me being new in this role, has greatly supported me. She has a wonderful humor, great advocate for kids, and I will greatly miss her.
Yeah, I just echo that just a wonderful advocate for students, a wonderful advocate for instructors as well, and giving ideas, very supportive. And as a person still feeling among such a great district with a lot of experienced people in it, as somebody who came here, she was a real lifeline in terms of the experience with students, staff. What a wonderful person to learn from and being connected to this entire time in the school district. Thank you, Deanna.
I had a student that graduated and has reaped the benefits of both of these women to become very successful in his life now after here. But the dedication of both of those women that I've seen and experienced firsthand were second to none. And my kid probably wouldn't have made it through as well as he did without the help of both of them. You're very much appreciated, and you're going to be missed.
And I did put out the bonfire with the help of Billy Peterson. He had a skid steer that helped me out.
There you go.
Did you drive it?
I did not. It was only smoldering.
Bill wouldn't let him.
But it always smoldered the next day.
No one gets to judge skid steer.
Okay, well, with that, motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Joe, a second? Second. Dale, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned. Thank you.